Chapter 621. After getting the answer, Almond couldn't help but feel speechless. During this period of time, the hot news repeatedly emphasized Lu Cheng's age, so she could clearly remember his age without thinking. He was 22 years and 7 months old, and had just received his university graduation certificate not long ago. He's married already. Is it that super pretty girl from last time? Although China's laws state that one can register at the age of 18, there are still very few who get married at such a young age, be it for the sake of studying or martial arts. In the core team, Empress Luo and Coach Lu seemed to have spouses. However, he had joined the team late and did not know much about his seniors. As for the other three, Dragon King was said to be a celibate, but he had a fixed female partner. He would change his partner every year. In any case, he did not talk about relationships. Everyone just took what they needed and parted on good terms. Optimus Prime Longjin had a girlfriend in the past, but they had been separated for quite some time. According to the rumors, he currently preferred to solve his physical needs through transactions. He had placed all his focus on getting his first title. As for martial arts fanatic Wu Jie, it was obvious from her nickname that she didn't have a husband, a boyfriend, or a pet. As her thoughts raced, Almond felt that she was being a little too ignorant. Unusual people do unusual things. As a heavenly son of the era and a physical invulnerability expert under 23, it's normal for Mr. Lu to do something different from others. There weren't any media reports before, so almost no one knows about it. This means that Mr. Lu doesn't want this matter to spread, at least not now. I have to keep it a secret. With this in mind, Almond looked at the staff again. She was in her 40s or 50s and didn't look out of the ordinary. She should be an auntie who doesn't care about martial arts. Moreover, the other party of the transaction is a real estate company under Longhu Club. Just from the surface, one couldn't tell that it was a club. As for Mr. Lu, other than his name, there was nothing else that could be leaked. Hello, may I know what other materials you need? Almond lowered her head and asked sincerely. Which agency are you from? You don't even know this. The staff nagged and gave her the missing information. Almond recorded it carefully and sent a message to Lu Qing. She explained that it was a rule to prevent one of the spouses from hiding the property after marriage. It's my first time buying a house, so I really don't know. Not to mention other things, I even forgot to give the marriage certificate. I'm so stupid. Lu Cheng, who happened to have a break in the middle, felt ashamed. Taking advantage of the video chat, he told his wife about it, which made Yan Zhika laugh for a few minutes. That day, Almond's trip was in vain. After a few days, the documents were ready. She finally transferred the property and got the certificate on the spot. She began to contact the logistics team and sent someone to do an in-depth cleaning. After she was done with these matters, she returned to the Longhu Club and met Ouyangde, the manager of the assistant team, in the corridor. Little man, did you just come back from outside? Ouyangde asked in a friendly manner. Yes, to help Mr. Lu transfer the ownership of that villa, Almond answered succinctly. Ouyangde laughed when he heard this. You have to change your mindset. How can you do this kind of thing yourself? You have to stay close to Mr. Lu as much as possible, in case he has other matters to attend to. You're the personal assistant of a physical invulnerability expert, so you don't have to do everything yourself. You can leave it to the others in the office to run errands. If you encounter any problems, give the Foreign Affairs team a call. They have strong connections with the government and can solve any major problem. I'm still not used to it. Thank you for the reminder, manager. Almond was suddenly enlightened and found her problem. I'm still using the same old method to deal with physical invulnerability experts. However, there were some things that had to be done personally. Just like the transfer of ownership this time, if the Foreign Affairs team or someone else were to leak the news that Mr. Lu was already married, that would be a huge mistake. Almond thought thoughtfully. Ouyang nodded in satisfaction. He turned to Lu Qing and said, "There's a political and business cocktail party tonight. They've specially invited Mr. Lu to congratulate him on his breakthrough to physical invulnerability. Ask him if he has time. If he doesn't, you can go on his behalf. If he doesn't have any clothes, go to the finance team to get an advance payment." All right. Almond's mind immediately flashed with images of lavish clothes, beautiful hair, and high society parties. She suddenly understood a phrase that many people had mentioned before. Sometimes, a personal assistant was the representative of a physical invulnerability expert. They were qualified to stand together with high officials and tycoons. Being such an assistant seemed to be very busy. Almond thought that she would lead a busy and fulfilling life. However, after the cocktail party, she realized that she had become a free person with almost nothing to do every day. As for the reason, it was very simple. Almond was also very clear about it, but she couldn't do anything about it. From the beginning of September until the middle of October, Mr. Lu had been leading a monotonous and repetitive life. He would wake up at 5 a.m. and train at Shipei Lake until 7:40 a.m. After showering, he would arrive at the club in the nanny van and have his breakfast at the restaurant for physical invulnerability experts. He would enter the quarantine zone at 9 a.m. sharp and practice his techniques. He would return to the lounge on the 5th floor at 11 a.m. until 12:30 a.m. or even later. After lunch, he would take a short nap and start training again at around 2 a.m. Sometimes, he would finish at 4 a.m. and leave early to try out all kinds of food in the city. Other times, he would persist until 5:30 a.m. and return home after dinner. Such a life, day in and day out, could be described as an ascetic monk. Almond counted the things she had done in the past month with her fingers. She had followed the nanny van to fetch Mr. Lu to the club and send him home every day. She had helped him book a round-trip ticket to Connecticut in early October. She had redone his visa and stayed there for 5 days. She had booked a round-trip ticket to Gaofen and a round-trip ticket to Shushan from Gaofen. She had checked the effects of the deep cleaning. She had represented him at 2 banquets. She had made appointments with the cleaning company under Longhu to clean his villa every 2 days. She had helped him book a few seats at various restaurants in Huaqing. She had connected with the property management and the logistics team and transferred the water and electricity bills directly to them. She had only done these things for more than a month. This was simply too boring. She felt that she had let down her salary of more than $30,000. Fortunately, Almond had found something for herself to do, and that was reading and learning. According to the supervisor, being the assistant of a physical invulnerability mighty one didn't require one to be an expert, but one had to be a jack of all trades. One had to know a little about everything to deal with different situations. Just like the former assistant of the Dragon King, she had enrolled in Huaqing's business school. Now, as the Dragon King's representative, she was on the board of directors of several companies. Putting down the book, Almond rubbed her shoulders. She glanced at the physical invulnerability training room and realized that Lu Qing hadn't come out yet. If Mr. Lu hadn't gone out from time to time to experience the delicacies of Huaqing's famous restaurants, I would have suspected that he was a robot with no other hobbies other than martial arts. Or perhaps he was a serious otaku who only knew about online entertainment. Just as Almond was letting her imagination run wild, she suddenly saw Ning Zidong walking over gracefully. Her hair was tied up and she was wearing a loose martial arts suit. "Empress Luo," greeted Almond. "Good afternoon." Ning Zidong smiled gracefully. "He hasn't come out yet." "Soon." Mr. Lu had made a reservation for dinner at 5:30 p.m. "He has to leave early." "The traffic jam is bad there," answered Almond honestly. Ning Zidong chuckled. "Then you can help him cancel it. He probably won't go." "Ah." Almond was completely baffled. In the physical invulnerability training room, the outer part of the room was a training area. Lu Cheng was punching and kicking vigorously. As he unleashed his punches and kicks, balls of flames began to surround his body. They were either scarlet, blazing white, light blue, golden, or light purple. They spiraled and flew as though they were about to merge into one. Bam! Lu Cheng threw a punch. The 5 balls of flames gathered and collapsed abruptly. A blinding light appeared abruptly. Following that, a violent wind and rolling flames expanded, causing the metallic hall to clatter and shake. In some places, there were even serious burn marks. This 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the sun is still a little lacking. I haven't gotten started yet. Lu Cheng kept his stance inside. Time was indeed a little tight. It wasn't like the ice god's sect where he had the help of the polar laboratory. He paced back and forth as he pondered over the details. Suddenly, he remembered the 9th move of the ice sect, boundless starry sky. Absolute frost. This secret art wasn't complete. He used it as a reference and created the lament of the Ice Queen with the help of the changes in the Dan equilibrium. Now, could he use this train of thought to master the 9th move of the fire sect, 9 rotations of 5 flames? Descent of the sun. Just as Lu Cheng was about to delve into it, he remembered that he had plans for the day. He took out his phone and glanced at it. Patting his clothes, he walked towards the door. He entered the password and went through a few heavy doors. When he saw Alman, he also saw Ning Zidong. Sister Ning, why are you here? Lu Cheng asked in surprise. How is it? How's your mastery of the physical and vulnerability chapters? Ning Zidong didn't answer his question. I've grasped the basics, but there are still a few moves that I haven't gotten started with, Lu Cheng answered frankly. During this period of time, he hadn't participated in the activities of the core team. Instead, he focused on mastering the fire sect physical and vulnerability chapters. He only consulted Lu Yen from time to time. He realized that this bad-tempered, middle-aged coach was indeed very experienced in guiding others. He had his own unique points. Most of the time, physical and vulnerability experts trained separately and in different places. Ning Zidong smiled and said, "That's pretty fast." She changed the topic and said, "The master battle is in a week's time. Let's spar today. Familiarize yourself with the moves in actual combat so that you won't be rusty." Spar. Spar with the core team. Spar between physical and vulnerability experts? Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. For some reason, the image of the majestic figure of the Dragon King appeared in his mind. All right. He nodded his head, slightly trembling. Ning Zidong smiled and nodded. Let's go then. It's not suitable for us to spar indoors. Hee, at least we don't have to wait for a bye. The 6 of us is just right. After instructing Alman to cancel the appointment, Lu Cheng followed Ning Zidong out of the building through the back door. They came to the other side of the lake. Scorch marks and potholes began to appear on the ground beneath their feet. In some places, they could even see colored glaze formed from the melted soil. After walking for a while, Lu Cheng saw the Dragon King, Qin Chitao, standing proudly with his hands behind his back. They waited until the Dragon King picked up a paper ball and flicked out the rest before they tried to snatch another one. However, as the paper ball was already brittle and could easily fall apart, they restrained their strength and weakened the fight. They quickly drew their own lot and left the last one for Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng more or less understood that this was a routine. Without moving his feet or raising his hand, a cold gust of wind blew and sent the paper ball into his palm. Let's just draw lots normally in the future. Ning Zidong glanced at it and said half-jokingly. At this time, the Dragon King unfurled the paper and said expressionlessly, 3. 2. Lu Yan looked at his palm and said indifferently. 1. Which one of you is 1? Longjin stretched his shoulders and chuckled as he looked at Guijia and the rest. His scalp was so shiny that it could be used as a mirror. Lu Qing looked down and saw a clear blue-black 1 written in the middle of the unfolded paper bowl. I'm number 3. Ning Zidong waved the note. 2. Guijia's answer was short and to the point. She was slightly disappointed. She wanted to see the martial arts of ice and fire. Looks like we're in the first round. Longjin smirked as he looked at Lu Qing. Although he was asking in return, he was already moving towards the center of the abandoned land. His eyes were smiling, and his fighting spirit was evident in every detail. Chen Qitao, Ning Zidong, and the rest retreated. Lu Qing took a few steps forward and stood about 30 meters away from his opponent. In his eyes, Longjin, who was known as the Optimus Prime, was indeed very tall. Even without expanding his muscles and stretching his joints, he was more than 1 meters tall. He was definitely a giant of the current generation. Longjin's skin was tanned to a bronze color. Although his muscles were hidden under the loose martial arts suit, the heaviness was obvious. It made one wonder if his ankle joints could withstand that terrifying weight. The answer was yes. Not only could Longjin's legs withstand the weight of his entire body, they were also very agile. He could run and jump, and they were as tough as alloys. This was a fire sect physical invulnerability expert known for his strength. This was a veteran first pin expert. Those who had just made the great leap would be classified as third pin. Then, based on a yearly cycle of the lunar calendar, each third pin expert's chances of winning against physical invulnerability experts of the same third pin level as well as their chances of winning against second pin level experts would be calculated. As long as one of the two reached the standard, they would be classified as second pin. Correspondingly, the evaluation of first pin was the same. Above that would be the experts who had defeated most of the physical invulnerability experts and obtained titles. Although Lu Qing had killed 2 physical invulnerability level enemies, the Mummy and the Dark Knight Bat, the former was only at the level of a third pin at his peak. The latter seemed to have only recently advanced. Relying on his various and mysterious supernatural abilities, he might be on the verge of a second pin. There was definitely a clear gap between him and a veteran first pin who had the ability to aspire for a title. More importantly, in that battle, the Mummy was heavily injured, and so was Dark Knight Bat. The 2 heavenly sons of heaven on his side had joined forces and killed the Mummy at the start of the battle with a sneak attack. In short, the reason for his strength was relatively low. It was Lu Cheng's first time fighting a first pin expert who was in peak physical condition and mentally prepared. Of course, after mastering the Ice Sect and Fire Sect physical invulnerability chapters, his strength had improved tremendously. He was no longer comparable to when he was in Nile. This was a good opportunity to familiarize himself with his moves and find his position. Bam! Bam! Within a radius of a few dozen meters, the temperature rose rapidly. Clusters of crimson flames rose from the ground. Lu Cheng's short hair seemed to have been scorched a few times by an invisible heat. It started to bend, and there was even a burnt smell. The fight between physical invulnerability experts had changed from a pure mental battle to a battle between illusion and reality. His pores were affected, and his breathing became difficult. Without hesitation, Lu Cheng communicated with the heavens and earth and displayed his own characteristics. Against a first pin expert, he couldn't think of any reason to bind one of his hands and compete only with the fire sect techniques. The heavens and earth seemed to darken, but certain places were brighter. It was as though stars were appearing one after another. Longjin narrowed his eyes and snorted. His aura was at its peak, and he seemed to have turned into a huge burning fireball. Heavy and scorching, he pulled and interfered with the resplendence in the surrounding void, causing them to either change their trajectories or shatter. Seeing the starry sky on the verge of collapse, Lu Qing knew that he was still lacking in maturity and couldn't fully utilize it. He decided to change his visualization. He enlarged a corner of the universe and concentrated his energy to show the stellar system. The stars gathered one after another, forming a blazing sun that was 70% illusion and 30% reality in front of Lu Qing. It also felt heavy, but it was also glowing brightly. It clashed with Longzhen's aura across space, pulling at each other and sweeping away all matter between them. It was like two neighboring stars clashing with gravity to determine their respective areas of influence. Whoosh! The air was torn apart and split into two sides, setting off violent winds. The clusters of flames on the ground also took their respective sides and ran towards their targets. This was the scene at the core of the battle. Longzhen had the upper hand, but Lu Qing held his ground firmly and didn't lose ground. In the surrounding area, at the edge of the battle, the red flames were extinguished one by one. There was a gradual difference in temperature. The further one went, the colder it felt. There was even a thin layer of frost forming on the ground. Very good. Longzhen suddenly roared. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Lu Qing in an instant, as though he was caught in the wind and flames. His thick, muscular arms first pulled back and then shot out. In that instant, Lu Qing felt as though he was looking at a huge cannon defending a city. It suddenly retreated, gathered its strength, and fired an earth-shattering shot. The extremely strong recoil passed through Longzhen's back and spread to his knees and ankles. He slammed into the ground, causing the surroundings to shake. What kind of strength and power was this? This was a punch and kick derived from the fourth move of the fire sect, Flying Flame Meteor. For physical invulnerability experts, the battle was too intense and not the right time. Using a complete set of physical invulnerability moves could easily result in self-detonation. Therefore, conventional battles were based on the characteristics of one's body and focused on using certain techniques. That tanned fist was almost the size of a child's head. The pale golden flames clung tightly to it, forming only a thin layer. It was like a small part of an iceberg that surfaced from the water. It seemed to have enveloped the entire area, giving off a feeling that it was unavoidable. Lu Qing knew that this was due to the hidden fire virtue, which allowed the fist to change its direction at any time. Changing direction a few times consecutively made it easy to fall into a trap. This trend connected with the outside world and influenced each other's qi. Therefore, a punch could cover the entire sky. If Meng Qi didn't dodge, he could use force concentration and the fighting formula to counter the attack. He would be able to match his opponent in terms of strength, but the problem was that his opponent still had the hidden fire virtue. He wouldn't be able to use Emperor Yan at the same time when he used double outburst. This would cause the power of the explosion to be irresistible and hit him directly. While thinking, Lu Qing took a deep breath and activated his Dan force. He gently pushed out his palm to counter Longzhen's attack with softness. Just as his palm blocked Longzhen's terrifying fist, crystals suddenly gushed out and covered the golden flames in a thick layer of frost, delaying the explosion of fire virtue. Bam! In a clash of pure strength, Lu Qing was slightly inferior. However, he didn't suffer any damage because he used his palm against Longzhen's fist. He took a step back and turned his body with a spin of his heel. All of a sudden, a storm of snow blew in all directions, covering his tracks in an instant. No one knew whether he had gone to the left or the right. It was a movement technique derived from the second move of the ice sect, mesmerizing snow step. Chapter 623. The northern wind howled, disrupting one's hearing. The dense snow obscured one's vision and made one lose sight. In such a white and cold environment, one couldn't see more than 3 meters away. Even one's mind couldn't reach that far. Boom! The fire force in Longzhen's fist expanded, and the reddish-gold flames surged in all directions, melting many snowflakes and disrupting the path of the storm. It cleared a large area, as though it was a cannon blast from a main battle tank. However, after the explosion subsided, the wind returned, and the snowflakes fell again. Everything returned to white, as though a modern army had encountered the power of nature. In the eyes of the Dragon King and Empress Luo, the 70% illusory blazing sun that Lu Qing had formed didn't disappear as the storm engulfed it. Instead, it moved to the edge of the battlefield in a balanced manner. The further one was from it, the darker and colder it became. Chen Qitao watched for a while before nodding his head slightly. Whoosh! As the wind blew, Longzhen felt as though he was in the polar regions and had encountered extremely bad weather. In such an environment, amidst the heavy snow, there would be a punch or a flying kick from time to time. Sometimes, there would be a frenzied chain of attacks, a concentrated attack, and a few feints. Longzhen couldn't grasp the pattern of the attacks and couldn't catch them. He could only react passively and rely on his spirit to judge and defend against the attacks within a 3 to 4 meter radius. Bam bam bam. Bam bam bam. Longzhen was like an agile elephant. Punching and kicking, he blocked a few rounds of Lu Cheng's surprise attacks. He knew he couldn't continue like this. Focusing his mind, he changed his visualization and unleashed brute force. All of a sudden, the giant fireball that had fought with Lu Cheng's star across space appeared again. With Longzhen at the center of the fireball, it suddenly expanded. The tumbling blazing blue flames were like ocean waves. Each wave was higher than the previous one. They surged crazily and almost filled the entire battlefield. They cancelled out the storm, clearing the sky and emptying the earth. The indistinguishable scene disappeared, but Longzhen couldn't lock onto Lu Cheng's aura. His heart skipped a beat. Then he saw Lu Qing in his navy blue martial arts suit. He didn't know when he had retreated to the edge. Behind him was a huge, heavy, scorching, blazing white sun that was 70% illusory and 30% real. At this moment, he was like Emperor Yan descending. Bang! Lu Qing stomped his feet and, using his body as a fist, struck out. The great sun was attracted and merged with him, causing his body to shine brightly. His figure faded and turned into a burning star. Rubbing against the air currents at high speed, he charged towards Longzhen in an instant. A distance of a few dozen meters was really gone in the blink of an eye. This was also the application of the fourth style of the fire sect, Flying Flame Meteor. It highlighted the word fast and used external forces to increase its power. The light in his eyes was so bright that he could not see anything. Longzhen was a rank 1 expert who had experienced many battles. He did not panic at all. He clenched his fists and punched the air in front of him. The golden flames compressed and solidified, giving off a heavy feeling. The surrounding air currents and the soil on the ground were affected by this, causing sparks to appear. Bit by bit, they were densely packed like a prairie fire. Rumble. Just as the meteor came crashing, the golden flames exploded and collided violently with the violent impact of the other party, creating a terrifying hurricane that extinguished many of the sparks. Amidst the wind and waves, Longzhen raised his arms and blocked Lu Cheng's sideways collision. Both of their martial arts suits were scorched black and had burn holes. Both of them were covered in dirt. Slash! Longzhen was forced to slide back a few meters, leaving behind 2 distinct marks. Lu Cheng's momentum finally weakened. Bam! Before they could separate, Longzhen had already launched a low kick. Lu Qing did the same. The two of them struck with their elbows, knees, tangles, and grabs in the narrow space between them. Bursts of flames rang out one after another. Danger lurked in the moment, precision hidden in the millimeter as they walked on the tightrope. Bam, bam, bam. The continuous close-range combat made both of them feel satisfied. Lu Qing countered with his enemy heart-freezing move, which was a combination of danger premonition. He didn't appear weak at all. In this aspect, the fire sect physical invulnerability experts who weren't naturally proficient in close-range combat. Although they also had the realm of all-seeing God and sensed the minute details within a certain radius, they were still inferior to Long Zhen. Bam! Lu Cheng's forearm swung backwards, but was caught by Long Zhen's palm. He took 2 steps back, tensed his left leg, ignited a thin layer of golden flames, and lashed out at his enemy's knee. Just as Lu Cheng was about to lift his knee to counter the attack, Long Zhen's left leg suddenly emitted an implosion sound. Strangely, it changed direction and landed heavily on the ground ahead of time. The 15th move of the fire sect, Jet Spray, was derived from the second move of the physical invulnerability chapter, Golden Godly Flames. Bam! The ground shook under Long Zhen's stomp. The sparks in the surroundings gathered and erupted under Lu Qing. Like an erupting volcano, they shot up into the sky. In his seemingly passive defense, Long Zhen had already left a trigger for his counterattack. His experience and ruthlessness were evident. Lu Qing had just executed his move when he was faced with such a situation. The blazing fire dragon soared up from below and was about to swallow him whole. He fell backwards abruptly and flipped in the air, allowing the crimson fire dragon to shoot a distance away. It brushed past his calves and soared into the sky, scattering like fireworks. It was this split second that allowed Lu Qing to form an ice armor on his legs. It melted into water and dripped down. There were still some sparks left on his trousers, but they couldn't hurt his heat-resistant skin. They were shaken off. Lu Qing had just steadied himself when Long Zhen pounced on him. He swung his arms and coupled with the rapid eruption of Dan force, he hammered ferociously and compactly. Each of his protruding muscles displayed the beauty of human strength, as though they could crush everything. Bam, bam, bam. Lu Qing alternated between force concentration and the simplified fighting formula. He pulled his shoulders and struck with both arms, blocking his opponent's frenzied attacks with precision and concealment of force. Even so, under that monstrous strength, his fists, arms, and elbows were gradually numb. His legs couldn't bear the pressure and he couldn't shake off the attacks. Amidst the flame-like invasion, the temperature of the surroundings was getting higher and higher. Just a breath would burn one's airway. Lu Cheng's vision was also affected. Everything he saw was distorted. Bam, bam, bam. Once Long Zhen gained the upper hand, his attack seemed endless until he defeated his opponent. The ground beneath his feet caved in. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere. It was a mess. His height was even more eye-catching, making his opponent look like a dwarf looking up at a deity. As expected of a first-pin mighty one. Lu Qing couldn't help but sigh as he struggled to hold on. However, his ice heart was already formed. Such emotions were like a reflection in a lake, untraceable. Bam! Long Zhen struck again. Lu Cheng's sleeves were charred black and his arms were trembling. He took a step back, leaving deep footprints on the ground. Taking a step forward, Long Zhen retracted his chi and then exploded it. He raised his left arm again and struck again with a hard punch imbued with fire force. At this moment, Lu Qing opened his left hand and pressed forward with his thumb. A crystal clear and sharp cold light shot towards his opponent's head at the speed of a bullet. Ice Spirit Holy Light could be used as both a blade and a sword. Long Zhen seemed to have expected it. He tilted his head and the cold light missed. It didn't affect the swing of his left fist. Seeing this, Lu Qing turned his wrist and the cold light turned from a stab to a slash, cutting towards his opponent's neck. At the same time, he pulled his other shoulder back and changed from the front to the side, avoiding Long Zhen's punch. Piak! Long Zhen lowered his body and retracted his head into his chest like a tortoise facing danger. Even so, the explosion of his dance stage did not stop. With a shake of his right arm, it turned into a whip and lashed out. Lu Qing once again used force concentration and struck his opponent's forearm with his elbow. Bam! He drifted away like a kite. Long Zhen was about to give chase and not give him a chance to cover his tracks with the wind and snow. However, his body suddenly felt cold and his thoughts stopped for a moment. Lu Qing had used the ice spirit godly light sword to buy himself a chance to use severe warning. He landed on the ground and swayed his center of gravity. As though he had turned into the wind and snow, he whistled again and escaped Long Zhen's suffocating and extremely aggressive attack. After a long battle, Long Zhen seemed to be a little impatient. He didn't hold back anymore. As his fists and legs collided, he gradually formed a ball of pale golden flames. After a dozen moves, he created a ball of blazing white and a ball of crimson red. These 3 balls of flames circled around his body. Each had a different color, making him look like a god descending from the heavens. In ancient times, ordinary people who hadn't seen much would have prostrated themselves before such a scene. The reason why, 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the Sun was the ultimate skill of the fire sect was because it could be used to store power in a normal attack, allowing the 5 flames to coil around each other and not explode immediately. When the preparation was complete, it could be used at the right time without any restrictions. Of course, this was very mentally draining and would be quite a burden. Seeing that Long Zhen had already formed the 3 flames, Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. He felt that he couldn't allow his opponent to continue preparing. Amidst the wind and snow, he retracted his qi and blood and shifted the stars to form the fighting formula. Bam! As he released his qi and blood, his body suddenly grew. His martial arts suit tightened and his exaggerated muscles were exposed. At this moment, Lu Qing wasn't much shorter than Long Zhen. He took a step forward and threw a punch at his opponent's side. He wanted to use the most intense shockwave to ignite a ball of flames in advance. At this moment, Long Zhen suddenly revealed a cunning and smug smile. The crimson red, pale golden, and blazing white flames circling around him flew out and gathered at the tip of his fist. He didn't expect to use his ultimate move only after he had prepared all 5 flames. His posture just now was to force Lu Qing to initiate the attack. Rumble. The ground trembled and a mushroom cloud rose. A shallow crater appeared on the ground with burn marks everywhere. Lu Qing closed his eyes and destroyed the first wave of shock waves. However, the subsequent waves made his organs shake and churn. Long Zhen didn't give him a chance to catch his breath. He forcefully broke through the flaming waves and came close to him. Another round of fire-like invasion followed. The negative effects on his body had accumulated and even force concentration couldn't completely remove them. Lu Qing couldn't withstand this round of frenzied attacks. His stance was broken and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Long Zhen wins, announced the referee, Ning Zitong, who was watching leisurely from afar. Lu Qing took a deep breath and felt a burning pain in his throat. Long Zhen relaxed his posture and laughed loudly. Feels good. After recalling the battle, Lu Qing, who had learned a lot, slowly walked to the edge. He saw Dragon King looking at him. Chen Qitao nodded slightly. Close to second pin. Not bad. When I fully master the physical and vulnerability chapters of the Ice and Fire sect, coupled with the combination of martial arts and cultivation that I didn't use because I wanted to familiarize myself with the moves, my combat strength will definitely increase by a lot. Lu Cheng's gloomy mood after losing the sparring match was swept away. P.S. It's a sad thing. With the recent net cleanup, I have to delete the intimate scenes at the beginning. Actually, I was under a lot of pressure to write this. Many readers were wondering why such an upright squid classmate would go down the dirty path and become wretched. However, after thinking for a long time, I still decided to write it. Firstly, it's the feeling of youth and love, and secondly, it's hard not to have mixed feelings. Secondly, I wanted to write about the harmony of soul and body. Thirdly, it's to create and contrast the character. If I don't compare how Lu Qing behaves in front of Ku to how he behaves in front of others, the image of him restraining himself for the sake of love can't be fulfilled. Similarly, it's the same for Ku. Sigh. Chapter 624. After carefully observing the next two matches, Lu Qing pondered over the details as he returned to his personal lounge. After a shower, he headed to the restaurant and tasted the delicacies meticulously prepared by the chef. Looks like it's going to rain again. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he took out a tissue and wiped his mouth. He rubbed his slightly bulging belly and looked out the window at the cloudy sky. It wasn't even 6 yet, but the city was already dark. After lamenting, he left the restaurant and went to the side entrance of the club. Alman had already informed the driver, Xiao Zhenhua, to park the nanny van nearby. After a fierce battle, Lu Qing wasn't in the best of spirits. As soon as he sat in the car, he leaned against the soft and bouncy back of the seat, closed his eyes and held the armrest. He was half resting, half reminiscing and summarizing his gains. Alman saw that he was silent and confirmed that the audiovisual entertainment system was turned off. She picked up the walkie-talkie and whispered to Zhao Zhenhua to drive directly to the villa by Shipei Lake. Since they didn't pass through many congested areas along the way, the nanny van stopped in front of the villa after 20 minutes. Lu Qing collected his wandering thoughts and opened his eyes. He got out of the car, looked at the sky, and said to Alman, "You guys can go back. I don't have anything else to do here." "Okay." Alman had more or less figured out Lu Cheng's daily routine, so she nodded and waved her hand. "Goodbye, Mr. Lu. I'll come back tomorrow at the usual time." The engine hummed, and the sound grew distant. Lu Cheng's surroundings became unusually quiet. After standing for a few seconds, he turned around and opened the door through fingerprint verification. The house was dark, as if night had come early. However, the faint light from the windows on both sides still faintly outlined the outline of the walls, pillars, and furniture. Lu Qing closed the door behind him and stood beside the shoe cabinet. He slowly looked around. On the coffee table that shone with a metallic luster, cups were neatly placed upside down. None of them were filled with hot water or emitted the aroma of tea. The huge TV stood silently. The screen was pitch black, without any light or sound. In the semi-open kitchen, the frying pan, saucepan, and milk pot were all in place. Compared to yesterday, nothing had changed. The night wind that was about to rain blew through the screen, bringing a bit of chill. Lu Qing stared blankly for more than 10 seconds. He didn't turn on the lights. Relying on his powerful vision, he changed his shoes and closed all the windows. Then, he walked up the stairs shrouded in darkness to the second floor, neither too lightly nor too heavily. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of footsteps echoed peacefully. There was almost no light in the corridor on the second floor, but Lu Qing seemed to be able to see in the dark. He accurately avoided the half-high table with the flower pots and pushed open the door to the master bedroom. Compared to when he received the property, this place was already different. The layout had been changed quite a bit. The most obvious thing was that there was a recliner that could be used to sleep on next to the floor-to-ceiling window. On the other side of the door, there was a fully enclosed and spacious balcony with a swing-like hammock. He still didn't turn on the light. He walked to the side of the recliner and sat down. After a day of hard training and a fierce battle, his tired body sank into the softness that made every inch of his muscles feel comfortable. Lying down, he couldn't help but recall the conversation he had with his little fairy when they were discussing the layout of the master bedroom. "I want a recliner next to the floor-to-ceiling window. When I have nothing to do in the afternoon, I can lie there and bask in the warm sunlight. I can read novels and watch videos leisurely. When I'm sleepy, I can sleep until I wake up naturally. Do I need sunscreen? You're so annoying. The corners of his mouth curled up imperceptibly. Lu Qing lay quietly in the darkness, looking at the darkening night sky. He didn't seem to be thinking about anything, but at the same time, it felt like he was reliving the scenes of the past. Outside the window, the wind was strong, and so was the rain. Drip, 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 drip. 10 minutes later, his phone rang with a special reminder. He picked it up and saw Yan Zhike using an emoji of red scarf on head, determined to succeed. I love waking up early. I love morning exercises. Lu Qing chuckled and unlocked the screen. He typed quickly, snickering emoji. I'm enjoying your recliner comfortably. After replying, he turned on the desk lamp beside him. The dim but warm light spilled out, resisting the invasion of darkness and silence. After chatting with Ku for a while, he played games and read novels for a while. When Kai Zhongming, Jiang Fei, and the others finished their work or went home from work, he shifted his focus to chatting. On the way, he would occasionally watch the live broadcast of a martial arts competition and seriously discuss some interesting issues with Peng Liyun, Ren Li, and Chaoyang in the group chat. When Yan Zhike finished her training and was enjoying breakfast, he began to share his afternoon sparring experience with his wife. They discussed how to use the Dan equilibrium to practice 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the Sun. When Yan Zhike got busy with her studies, the frequency of chatting slowed down. Lu Qing went back to browsing the internet like before. Before going to bed, he called his mother, Qi Fang, and told her about his life that hadn't changed much recently. He also asked about the situation at home. Just like that, a day passed. After a night of heavy rain, the sun rose as promised. In the car, Lu Qing browsed the news about the places where he could see the sea. After breakfast, he returned to the training room for physical and vulnerability experts. He calmly sat cross-legged in front of the visualization diagram of 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the Sun. My biggest problem now is that I can't form a fireball and keep it circling around me for a long time. It's hard to maintain it for a long time. In other words, I have to prepare it in one go and use it as soon as possible. Only then can I use one of the 2 most powerful martial arts of the Fire sect. This is practically useless in actual combat. Lu Qing recalled yesterday's training process and the content of his discussion with Yan Zhike. At first, he wanted to imitate the experience of comprehending the vast starry sky. Absolute frost. During the Dan equilibrium, he wanted to suppress the ice spirit force, shrink the darkness, and highlight the stars and Emperor Yen force. He wanted to use this to activate 9 rotations of 5 flames. However, after careful consideration and discussion, he realized that this also required him to use his killer move as soon as possible. He couldn't just stand there and wait for others to attack. He didn't even have time to form a fireball. However, 5 fireballs of different natures circled around his body to maintain balance. Isn't this similar to the starry sky of the universe when he reached the Dan equilibrium? Starting from this train of thought, Lu Qing came up with a solution. Since physical and vulnerability experts can connect heaven and earth, influence their surroundings, and almost become one with nature, why can't they treat it as a whole? Within the whole, they can form a rotating balance. Their bodies are cold and dark, and they can rotate in balance with the surrounding fireballs. This definitely requires the mind to act as a bridge between the 2 sides. However, the 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the Sun is a unique skill that requires the mind to make a complicated connection to maintain the 5 fireballs circling. In other words, there's no need for me to practice this difficult technique. There's a more convenient, simpler path that suits me. A path that integrates the inside and outside. Thinking of this, Lu Qing was suddenly enlightened. He stood up abruptly, took a deep look at the visualization diagram, and strengthened his understanding of the charm. Then he left the small room and returned to the practice field outside. He put on a stance and stood steadily. A starry sky appeared in his mind and rapidly enlarged. Darkness was at the edges, and the sun was in the center, forming the image of the heavy Emperor Yen. His fire force circulated. As the visualization changed, a faint purple fireball condensed around his body. At this moment, the starry sky of the universe in Lu Cheng's mind was mainly dark and cold. Using the connection between his mind, root pulp, and the outside world, he guided the faint purple fireball to rotate in a stable and balanced manner. During the process, Lu Cheng felt that this method didn't cause much of a burden on his mind. Suddenly, he had a plan. If the rotation of 5 flames follows this pattern, I can maintain it longer than normal methods. Very, very long. TSK. That's too many changes. Lu Cheng tried to condense a second fireball. After the visualization diagram changed, his mind, root pulp, and organs all changed. The faint purple fireball around him lost its balance and crashed to the ground. Boom! An explosion occurred. The alloy was dented and the cracks were obvious. Looking at this scene, Lu Cheng learned his lesson from his failure. After repeated trial and error, he finally found a solution, which was to maintain the balance of rotation between stars while condensing other fireballs. A few days later, he had 5 fireballs of different colors revolving around him and maintained them for a long time. Lu Cheng was in a good mood after finally mastering the 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the sun. While resting, he bragged to his wife. Then, he browsed the news and saw eye-catching news. The 4 heavenly sons of China are competing for the first time. All of them have attained physical invulnerability before the age of 24. The Super Platinum generation is about to meet. Zhihai of the north, Lu Cheng of the south, Liyun of the east, and Rinli of the west. Who will challenge the Dragon King and the Warrior Sage in the next few years? After browsing, Lu Cheng suddenly remembered something. The Grand Master battle is coming. Tomorrow, I'll be heading to Jiuqiu City with Long Zhen, Guojia, and the rest. As for the Dragon King, he didn't need to go. He was the current generation's Grandmaster, waiting for the challengers. Chapter 625. Recalling the Battle of Masters incident, Lu Cheng glanced at the news headlines that were either on steroids or had funny words. He switched to QQ and clicked into the group that he had blocked. He saw Ping Liyun, Renli, and Chaoyang in a heated discussion. He swiped his thumb and scrolled up the chat history. At the beginning, it was a link to a news article sent by Hipster. After a few minutes, Renli appeared and asked with a confused expression, "Why am I in the west?" "Because Kongtong Mountain is in the west." And Chaoyang used 2 full stops to express his feelings. "Really?" Renli replied with a suspicious expression. Ping Liyun appeared and sent an emoji of Conan's twitching mouth. "You didn't study geography in high school?" Renli answered confidently, "That's right. The geography books didn't say that Kongtong Mountain is in the west." "Really?" Ping Liyun tagged and Chaoyang. And Chaoyang replied, "I graduated from high school more than 5 years ago. How could I remember clearly?" At this point, Lu Cheng couldn't help but send a laughing out loud emoji. Ping Liyun didn't give up. "Lu Cheng, do you still remember? I chose science in high school." Lu Cheng smiled evilly. "As for the general geography exam, our school is very lax. As long as you don't flip through the books in front of the invigilator, you can do whatever you want." "Even so, I didn't score 80, it can't be. If you could flip through the books, you would definitely score 90 and above." For a moment, Ping Liyun doubted Lu Cheng's IQ. He was in a daze for more than half an hour and still scored high in the general geography exam. Lu Qing sent an emoji of covering his face and sighing. When I entered the exam hall, I realized that half of my geography book had been torn apart by my two troublemaker cousins. Luckily, I was surrounded by people I knew, so you've always been stupid. And Chaoyang sighed. It was true that there were only wrong names, but no wrong nicknames. Recalling the embarrassing incident during the four-nation competition, Lu Qing quickly changed the topic. Priest, Renli, when are you arriving at Jiuqiu? I'm already there. Peng Liyun replied after 10 seconds. A few seconds later, Renli sent a link with an angry look. Quick, go and scold him. Lu Qing clicked on it and saw a news article. The title was similar to the one he had seen before, but the content had more analysis and predictions. The Wisdom King, Shi Hai, has been a physical invulnerability expert for 4 years and has received a title. Putting that aside for now, Peng Liyun, Renli, and Lu Qing have only made the great leap less than 3 months ago. They are considered to have just grasped the basics of their martial arts. Indeed, at the same level, they are indeed stronger than cultivators of the same rank in all aspects. If everyone leaps over the dragon gate at the same time, the strength they display will undoubtedly be the strongest. This is determined by a deeper and more solid foundation and more outstanding talent. In other words, as long as they stabilize their realm and familiarize themselves with their martial arts, they will be considered to be the cream of the crop among the third pin experts. They won't be weaker than those veteran physical invulnerability experts who have been stuck at this level for many years. Of course, every physical invulnerability expert who can make the great leap is an outstanding figure. It's just that there's always someone stronger. Also, to be honest, many experts will be satisfied once they transform into a dragon and ascend to the heavenly realm. They will lose their hunger for martial arts and glory. Although they still persist in training, their improvement will obviously slow down. The reason isn't external, but in their hearts. Let's not talk about this. Back to the topic. Based on our previous analysis, we can determine the current strength of Peng, Lu, and Renli by comparing them to the Wisdom King. If only third pin experts participate in the master battle, they will have a chance to reach the end. Unfortunately, this is just a fantasy. Although it won't be like the Battle of Kings and Warrior Sages where many seniors who have retired from professional competitions will participate, at the very least, almost all the experts in their prime will participate, excluding those who are recuperating. They have a certain chance of winning against a rank 2, and a little hope of winning against a rank 1, but that's all. That's why a lot of the news today is just headlines. They're maliciously hyping up hot topics. Without any exaggeration, what they're looking forward to will happen 3 or 5 years later, not now. In this master battle, Lu Qing, Renli, and Peng Liyun will at most enter the top 32, and that will depend on their good luck in the draw. There's nothing wrong with that. After reading it, Lu Qing felt that the analysis was on point. Why did you scold him? Renli was silent for a moment. After a long while, she replied, I sent the wrong link. It's this, she added another piece of news. The content was similar to a bet. It was guessing the chances of the 3 heavenly sons other than Shi Hai being eliminated in the first 2 days of the double elimination competition. There were 86 physical invulnerability experts who had signed up for the master battle. Including the 16 Inhumans who had passed the preliminaries, there were 102 contestants. The initial double elimination competition was where one would be eliminated after 2 losses. Only the top 32 would be left. Then, a single loss would be eliminated to determine the martial artist who would challenge the previous master battle. This bet was that Lu Qing, Renli, and Peng Liyun, who had just reached the physical invulnerability stage and lacked actual combat experience, would suffer 2 consecutive losses and leave the master battle without winning a single match. Pfft, why bother competing with such sensationalist people? Winning the competition is the best way to retaliate, advised Lu Qing, who had been through hundreds of battles in the field of public opinion. Yes, yes. Renly nodded. Sensationalist is a good word. I'll reply to them. Did you understand what I meant? Lu Qing was momentarily speechless. He could only reply with a blank expression. Peng Lian wasn't sure if he was in a daze and accidentally touched his phone, or if he shared the same feelings. And Chaoyang, on the other hand, asked calmly, "Didn't you say that you didn't register an account because you didn't want to argue with others?" "My little niece lent me her phone," Renly answered frankly. Seeing that she was in high spirits, Lu Qing changed the topic. "Renly, I'm going to Jiu-Chu tomorrow. What about you? Shall the three of us get together before the competition?" Peng Lian was the first to reply. "Why don't we get together after the competition? The one with the highest ranking and the one who lasts the longest gets to treat. What do you think?" "Sure. Sure." Lu Qing and Renly gave affirmative replies almost at the same time. Their fighting spirit was further stimulated by this small bet. And Chaoyang smiled bitterly and said, "I don't even have the right to treat." He had actually maintained his mentality well. As he was only 24.5 years old and already had the strength of a fourth pin, he had plenty of time and hoped to make the great leap. However, no one knew how long it would take. "I'm definitely buying this deal." Lu Qing teased himself as he left the group and shared this matter with Yan Zhike. She cooperated and sent a microphone emoji. "Student Lu Qing, what are your goals and thoughts for this master battle?" Mainly to see the world," Lu Qing replied humbly. In addition to this relatively peaceful attitude, he was also filled with emotions and yearning. "Those mighty ones that I've seen growing up, those mighty ones that I've heard so much about, I'm finally among you. I finally have the chance to challenge you. Warrior Sage, Qian Donglu, King of Swords, Wu Qiao, Kirin Dong Baxian, Lion King, Shang Yud, Spear King, Huang Ku, Clown, Gu Jianqi, God-slaying Saber, Lu Yongyuan, Evening Light, Liang Yifan." All the famous names flashed through Lu Cheng's mind, making him feel as though his blood was boiling. The next morning, after training, Lu Qing, Gui Jia, and Long Zhen were led by Empress Luo, Ning Zidong to the airport. They boarded the club's commercial jet and headed straight for Jiu-Chu. Due to his previous injury, Lu Yan had chosen to give up on this master battle. However, he still tagged along to fulfill his duties as a coach. Outside the window, the sea of clouds formed a sea. There were occasional bumps, but to a physical invulnerability mighty one, such effects were negligible. The journey was smooth. They arrived at Jiu-Chu City in the central region at noon and boarded a few commercial vehicles arranged by the foreign affairs team. As usual, there were fans welcoming them in the hotel lobby. Lu Qing and the rest signed their names. With the help of Amen and the other assistants, they got their room cards and entered the elevator. "There's a pre-match banquet the day after tomorrow. Don't forget it," Ning Zidong reminded them as the elevator moved up. She turned to Lu Qing and smiled. "You have a high chance of playing in the opening match." "Huh?" Lu Qing looked back at her in confusion. As one of the contestants, how high could his chances be during the draw? Ning Zidong smiled and explained, "The three of you are in the limelight and are a hot topic. The organizing committee intends to pick one of you to play in the opening match. 1/3 chance. That's not low." Lu Qing couldn't help but smile. Chapter 626. October 29th, Friday, 7 p.m., Jiu-Chu City Martial Arts Association Banquet Hall. Round tables were placed neatly with 6 chairs around them. The red carpet extended from the entrance to the stage at the very front, dividing the hall into 2. Lu Qing and the other mighty ones walked slowly along the long carpet amidst the flashing lights and clicking sounds. Outside the entrance, there were many security guards preventing the excited crowd from approaching. With so many physical and vulnerability experts gathered, security was no longer a concern. Unless a nuclear bomb was launched, no one would be foolish enough to attack this place. However, there had to be someone to maintain order and prevent any opportunists. As soon as they left the focus of the media, Lu Qing, who was following behind Ning Zitong, saw Ping Liyun in blue. He was wearing a combination of Taoist robes and training clothes. He looked relaxed, as though his mind was wandering in every corner of the whole. "You're early," greeted Lu Qing with a smile. He looked around and didn't see any other mighty ones from the Shangqing sect around Ping Liyun, including but not limited to the warrior sage, Qian Donglu. Ping Liyun's eyes gradually became clear. He smiled and said, "You guys are late." After that, he called out, "Senior Empress Luo." Ning Zitong nodded slightly and asked elegantly, "The warrior sage doesn't want to go out again." "Martial Uncle Qian is like that. He doesn't like such social occasions," replied Ping Liyun. Everyone knew that although the warrior sage, Qian Donglu, was an outstanding figure that only appeared once in 1,000 years, he had a lazy personality. If he could sit, he would not stand. If he could lie down, he would not sit. He had no interest in such banquets. He found it troublesome to socialize with others, so he was often absent. "What about the others?" asked Lu Qing curiously. Ping Liyun's eyes became unfocused again. He seemed to have thought of something. While his friend waited patiently, he finally smiled bitterly and said, "They haven't arrived yet," following which, he explained, "Sect Master hates to take planes. He took the high-speed rail. Wasn't there a continuous downpour a few days ago? Many flights were cancelled or delayed. He only left today with Martial Uncle Yun Yan and Senior Mingyi accompanying him. I'm the only representative from the Shangqing sect now." Lu Qing almost laughed out loud. Ning Zitong, Long Zhen and the rest were right beside him. He didn't bother to exchange pleasantries with Ping Liyun. Instead, he searched for the nameplate on the banquet table and walked forward. After about 10 steps, Ning Zitong lowered her voice and chuckled. "Do you know why Yun Yan and Ming He insisted on accompanying Daoist Wu Guang?" A thought flashed through Lu Cheng's mind. Could this be the older version of Renli? We can't let a sect leader take the high-speed rail alone, right? He guessed hesitantly. Then leave it to the people from the External Affairs Hall of the Shangqing sect. Ning Zitong snickered. Not only is Taoist Wu Guang afraid of flying, but he also thinks that it's like a floating coffin. He won't be able to use it in the event of an emergency. Moreover, he's a sect master with a very weak presence. There was a time when the Shangqing sect's annual ritual ended without anyone noticing that the sect master never showed up. With Yun Yan and Ming He following us, the organizing committee will at least be able to remember that some of the participants have yet to arrive. This could be said to be very unique. Lu Qing secretly complained. He looked around and finally found the table with his name written on it. Just as he was about to approach, another acquaintance entered his eyes. Renli, with her long black hair hanging loosely over her shoulders, opened her big eyes that seemed to only exist in manga, and accompanied a woman in a white dress as she passed by. The woman was barefaced and had bangs that covered half of her eyebrows. She was beautiful and refined. At first glance, she looked like she was in her early 20s. However, her deep, dark eyes gave off the vibe of someone who had experienced the world. As a loyal fan of top professional competitions and title matches, Lu Qing recognized her without any introduction. She was the first Pin Mighty One of Kong Tong's school, Ren Li's master, Qi Ling, the blazing sword. From her appearance and outfit, it was hard to tell that she was from the same generation as her master, the Queen of Thought, Fei Dan. Her exact age was kept secret at her insistence, but she was definitely in her 50s. She had been in professional competitions for 20 to 30 years, but she always lost the chance to win a title due to a freak combination of factors. Until now, she had only won a few intersect competitions and had no other honors. It was said that in the few years when Empress Luo debuted, she was often compared to Empress Luo due to her equally stunning looks and equally powerful strength. She was called Little Qi Ling, which resulted in a grudge between them. For a very long period of time, she was the victim of Empress Luo. Seeing Ning Zitong, Qi Ling smiled faintly. "Your dress is really interesting. It's so colorful and beautifully matched. It's nothing compared to Senior Qi's beauty. Even in the most ordinary outfit, you can still amaze everyone," said Ning Zitong with a smile. "However, as a former grandmaster, I have to be a little more formal when I go on stage to draw lots later." She emphasized the words former grandmaster. She had received 2 titles before, one was king, and the other was grandmaster. But both were before the Dragon King and the warrior sage shone brightly. Qi Ling's expression froze for a moment, then she nodded with an elegant smile. "Then I won't delay you." With that, she led Renly to the side. Throughout the entire process, Renly kept quiet like a lady and didn't say a word. After a few steps, Renly lowered her voice and asked, "Master, who was that just now?" "Ning Zitong from Longhu," replied Qi Ling calmly. Realization dawned on Renly. I knew the person beside her looked like Lu Qing. So it's really him. It had been close to 3 months since they last met. As a competent face blind, she was already unfamiliar with Lu Cheng's looks. On the other hand, Lu Qing vaguely sensed the sarcasm in Empress Luo and Qi Ling's conversation when they sat down at the dining table. They were mocking each other for being old and coquettish, and Empress Luo had dealt a fatal blow with the title incident. "Damn, this conversation sounds like a monk playing mind games." Gathering his thoughts, Lu Qing looked around and saw mighty ones he had only seen on TV. Some of them had been active for a decade or two, while others had just broken through a few years ago and were rapidly advancing. However, he was familiar with their names. As for their faces, some of them had even appeared on posters in his bedroom. At this moment, there was a commotion at the door. A man over 1.9 meters tall walked in. He wore a martial arts suit that was light white with crimson interspersed in it. It was made of a special material, and as he walked, it revealed his masculine and powerful lines. His sideburns were combed up into a bun commonly seen in ancient martial artists. His facial features weren't exactly handsome, but he had the air of a man who looked down on everything. He was the chief disciple of the Yanzhao League, a martial artist from the generation of Empress Luo, Ning Zitong, the 44-year-old Dong Baxian. Before the era of the Absolute Duo, he had received 4 titles. 2 were Challenger, 1 was Grandmaster, and 1 was Supreme Class. He was known as the Warrior King, and was a highly anticipated mighty one. Unfortunately, he was born at the wrong time and met the Warrior Sage and the Dragon King. A few years later, when Lu Qing was in his first year of university, he only received 1 Grandmaster title. However, he seemed to have gradually adjusted his mentality and walked out of the shadows. In the past 2 years, he had made further progress and regained his glory. He had received 2 titles in a row, the Warrior Sage last year and the Kirin last month. He had a spirit that didn't allow the Dragon King and Warrior Sage to monopolize the limelight. He had become one of the other martial artists who had received the most titles during the era of the Absolute Twins. Unlike the stern and dignified Dragon King, Dong Baxian had a smile on his face. From time to time, he would chat cheerfully with the physical invulnerability mighty one beside him. They were all members of the Yanzhao League. They were the beautiful first Pin Lin Shuyao who liked to imitate famous figures from the Wei and Jin dynasties, the mighty one who Dong Baxian said would be a title holder in the future, the 29-year-old second Pin Wang Ke, and the third Pin Hu Shubai who had been praised by Wang Ke after just a year, retracting his gaze, Lu Qing saw the chairman of the Jiu-Chu City Martial Artist Association, Li Hao, on the stage, ready to give a speech. At this moment, all the physical and vulnerability mighty ones had arrived. The door slowly closed, leaving only a few media partners. After the guests gave their speeches, Li Hao, who was also the person in charge of the organizing committee, smiled and said, "This year, there are 5 new physical and vulnerability mighty ones. As the goal of this competition is to nurture martial arts grandmasters, I would like to select one of them to open the curtains of this competition. In the first half of the year, it was Go Wen from the Xuanwu sect and Meng Liang from the Shizhou Island. In the second half of the year, it was August. Lu Qing from the Ice God sect, Ping Liyun from the Shangqing sect, and Renli from the Kongtong school. This was the year with the most martial arts grandmasters in the past decade. This suggestion received a round of applause from all the mighty ones. Li Hao got the hostess to bring over a large glass bottle containing 5 small balls. Each ball had a crack in it, hiding a ball of paper with a name written on it. Not 1 in 3, but 1 in 5. The corner of Lu Cheng's mouth twitched. He had a premonition that it should be him. He watched as Senior Li Hao took out a small ball, pulled out the ball of paper, and unfolded it. "Longhu Club, Lu Qing," said Li Hao with a laugh. As expected. Lu Qing smiled and shook his head. "Let's welcome the former Grandmaster, Empress Luo, Ning Zitong, to select Lu Cheng's opponent for us," said Li Hao with open arms. Ning Zitong stood up and gracefully went up the stage. From another box, she took out a ball of paper. She unfolded it and took a closer look. The corner of Ning Zitong's mouth slowly curled into a meaningful smile. This made Lu Cheng's heart skip a beat. He had a feeling that this wasn't a good draw. After a few seconds, Ning Zitong opened her mouth with a clear voice. "Wuyue Club, F***CK, what an ill-fated relationship. Don't tell me he's going to fight with my senior. Or the clown." Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. In a loose sense, Wuyue Club could be considered his sect. Hearing these 3 words, a commotion broke out in the hall. All the physical and vulnerability experts started discussing in low voices. Ning Zitong paused for 2 seconds before continuing to announce, "Xin Xiaoye." "Phew, that's good." Lu Qing heaved a sigh of relief. She was a physical and vulnerability expert from Hanqi's sect of Wuyue Club. She had just made the great leap at the end of last year. However, she was definitely not to be underestimated. There had never been a physical and vulnerability expert before the age of 30 in ancient times. Even now, there were less than 5 of them. And she was one of them. Chapter 627. Xin Xiaoye was chosen by the Hanqi sect at the age of 12 and was accepted as a disciple. However, martial arts was only one of her hobbies. At that time, she was bent on becoming a screenwriter. The next best thing would be to become a car racer. Therefore, she followed the usual routine of middle school and high school and entered the Capital Film and Television Academy. Before she graduated, she was favored and became the assistant of a famous screenwriter, helping him to complete a cliched drama. This allowed her to make great strides in her career as a screenwriter. However, the subsequent developments were not satisfactory. A few independent TV series flopped and she had a falling out with her mentor. She was almost forced to live in the basement of the capital. Only then did she remember that she was a professional ninth pin martial artist. She had to change her job and change her mood. Perhaps because she had seen and experienced it, she focused on martial arts and was 10 times more passionate than before. At the age of 24, she barely entered the dance stage. She quit her job and returned to the Hanqi sect to train hard. At the age of 28, she surprised her teachers and fellow disciples by transforming her root pulp and becoming an inhuman. Until now, no one believed that she could make the great leap. She only reached fourth pin at the age of 30 and was close to physical invulnerability. This further proved everyone's point of view. In this environment where there was no pressure and no attention, she pasted posters of Liang Yifan all over her room. She did not give up and did not turn to enjoy life. More than a year later, in the title competition, she met her idol in the first round. Under the terrifying pressure and the threat of defeat, she shone with unprecedented brilliance and connected the heavens and earth. She lost the competition, but on the path of martial arts, Xan Xiaoya took a crucial step forward, breaking the expectations of the Hanqi sect and even the Wuyue society. This late bloomer mighty one had an interesting personality. Her favorite thing to do was to ridicule herself. For example, because of her flat chest, her Weibo nickname was Xin Family's Washboard. For example, she stood on the shoulders of her predecessors and successfully integrated some of the martial arts of the Death sect into the Ice sect, allowing some of the slower secret arts of the latter to explode with power quickly. When she was called Deadly Cold, she self-deprecated frozen dumplings. It had always been difficult to practice two supreme arts at the same time. The further one progressed, the more difficult it became. For example, certain moves of the Plague sect required a corresponding force to drive them in order to unleash their full power. However, under the premise that one mainly practiced the Wind sect or other arts, one would not be able to cultivate another force unless one did not want to transform one's root pulp and become an inhuman. Of course, there was a new method at the moment, and that was Lu Cheng's Tao of the Universe and Stars, the path of Dan formation through balance. Under such circumstances, cultivators who had 2 or 3 absolute arts but could only cultivate one of them would inevitably feel unsatisfied. Thus, they began to explore other methods. They searched for similarities and connections between the cultivation methods, extracted the corresponding parts, and blended them into their own martial arts. In this regard, the Kongtong school had made remarkable achievements. After generations of exploration, they had finally integrated some of the unique skills of the Plague sect into the Wind sect, deriving many moves that were similar to biochemical weapons. In other words, Renli could use the Wind Empress force to unleash the hidden scent while only changing her visualization. There were many similar attempts. Techniques that were similar in nature did not necessarily need to be mixed. For example, the force of the Dark sect could allow the corresponding moves of the Death sect and the Plague sect to unleash about 80% of their power, and vice versa. The Wuyue society had a nearly complete set of the Ice divine arts, Ice sect, and a part of the secrets of killing, Death sect. Since its establishment, they had been exploring ways to use the former as a base and blend the latter. After several generations of mighty ones laying the groundwork, they had begun to see results in recent years. First, it was the clown Gu Jinshi who specialized in the Death sect. With his extraordinary intuition, he blended a small portion of the Ice sect's content in reverse. Subsequently, the Spear King Huang Ku and other physical invulnerability experts created their own moves. When Xian Xiaoya was at the inhuman stage, she had come into contact with the relevant content and had many ideas. When she had made the great leap and possessed the strength, she finally mastered and perfected the blending. She lived up to her predecessor's hard work and the lethal chill lived up to its name. Various rumors about his opponent flashed across his mind. Lu Qing tilted his head and looked towards the seats of the Wuyue society. First, he saw his senior sister, Shiyue Jian, who was smiling at him. Then, he saw the clown Gu Jinshi whose reputation was about to overshadow that of the Spear King. He had a hippie-like ponytail and various green tattoos on his neck and arms, including the famous clown tattoo. What left the deepest impression on Lu Qing was his pair of eyes that were filled with arrogance, stubbornness, and unwillingness to admit defeat. According to statistics, in the past 10 years, the clown was the martial artist who had defeated the stronger martial artist the most times. On this list, Lu Qing was also listed. However, compared to Gu Jinshi, he was still lacking. He approved and liked the media's description of his opponent. Born in the darkness, my heart is strong. Looking away, Lu Qing finally saw the lethal chill, Xan Xiaoye. She looked to be in her 20s, with a well-proportioned body and wheat-colored skin. When she saw her opponent looking at her, she smiled and sent him a message. "Oh, not bad." To this, Lu Qing could only smile and nod. He had nothing to say. At this moment, a small number of media outlets had already released the news. Battle between fellow disciples. Lethal chill versus icefire sky-shaking roar. Who is the coldest? Who is the coldest martial artist of this generation? First battle after the heavenly son of China made the great leap. In Lu Chang's fan forum, a lot of cats sent an emoji of a confused dog's head. Comparing their nicknames, if I were Lu Qing, I would definitely choose Dog Leash. Is it that bad? It has a wild sense of beauty, replied Bull Demon King with a smirk. Unparalleled Dragon King replied, covering face and sighing expression, why don't we pool our efforts and help him come up with a better nickname? Let's not talk about this first. Both of them have just advanced and are physical invulnerability experts of the Ice sect. Whatever Xian Xiaoye knows, my idol knows too. What Xian Xiaoye doesn't know, my idol knows too. Is this an opponent that will give him free points? Asked Brahman happily. Unparalleled Dragon King answered seriously, not really. I heard that Xian Xiaoye's fatal chill is very powerful, and she hasn't used it many times yet. It hasn't been analyzed and deciphered by the outside world yet. Besides, it hasn't been 3 months since Lu Qing broke through. If he only trains in the Ice sect or the Fire sect, it won't be a problem for him to get started. If he trains in both, I suspect he still has moves he hasn't mastered. Let's not talk about these useless things. Anyway, he'll definitely win. Brahman, you become more mature after high school. You're not so childish anymore. Teased, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling after seeing that the result of the draw was good. Yeah, unlike a certain someone, who's still doing things the same way. Brahman began to expose Yan Shaoling's dark history. Yesterday, when I dyed my hair, I actually dyed it green. That's not true. I wanted to dye it brown, but... Yan Shaoling recalled yesterday. She was at a loss as to who she was, where she was, and what she had done. Unparalleled Dragon King was shocked. This is the first time I've seen someone voluntarily dye their hair green. No problem. Forgiveness is popular this year, said Okamoto's fan. Oh no, I thought Lu Qing would definitely win, but now I'm not so sure. Anyway, I'll definitely forgive him when the time comes. Wah, you guys, cry out loud. I really only wanted to dye it brown, replied Yan Shaoling, feeling wronged. I just didn't look carefully when I was choosing, and the guy who dyed my hair was very handsome and gentle. I was busy peeking at him, yeah. How can you call Chow's embarrassing actions stupid? Said a lot of cats, imitating Kong Yiji's tone. For a moment, everyone was laughing loudly. The forum was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. They almost forgot that Lu Chang's first physical invulnerability battle was coming up. At the end of the banquet, some were happy and some were sad about the results of the draw. Peng Liyun and Renli were lucky enough to be matched against third-pin opponents. At the end of the banquet, Lu Qing stood up and walked towards the Wuyue Club. His senior sister had arrived late and didn't even greet him. Shi Jian was waiting in her seat. Seeing him approaching, she smiled gently and said to him, I've heard from my dad that you and Renli joined hands and killed 2 physical invulnerability experts. This isn't your first physical invulnerability battle, so don't worry about you. She had a peaceful temperament. Although she loved martial arts, she didn't like to compete with others, let alone sharpen herself in life-or-death battles. So far, she hadn't killed anyone. This might be the reason why she was stuck at third pin. As for the martial arts fanatic, Guijie, she wasn't very talented. She only managed to make the great leap by relying on the word fanatic. After 4 years, she finally touched the edge of second pin. That's because the right time, place, and people were there, Lu Qing replied humbly. After exchanging a few pleasantries with him, Shi Yuejian reminded him seriously, "You must be careful of Xiaoya's fatal chill." Senior sister's tone sounds like the fatal chill is more powerful than I expected. Lu Qing nodded seriously and said, "Thank you for your advice, senior sister." After parting ways, he returned to the hotel with the rest of the Longhu Club. He entered the room and chatted with Yenjika, who occasionally took time out during class, about the opening battle tomorrow afternoon. "How was it? Are you confident?" Yenjika knew that Lu Qing must have been watching Xie and Xiaoya's battle videos from the past year. In short, I'll give it my all." Lu Qing expressed his thoughts. He even looked up Xie and Xiaoya's battle videos from the past few years, trying to determine the situation of the fatal chill from the fusion of the ice sect and death sect techniques. Yeah. Nodding like a chick pecking at rice, Yenjika added, I'm so angry. Why is the battle in the afternoon? I can't even watch it. It's the middle of the night. It's fine. It's not like you'll be eliminated if you lose. Besides, she has surprises, so do I, Lu Qing comforted his wife. All right. Pointing at her finger's expression, Yenjika replied. The next afternoon, 2:55 p.m., Connecticut time, 1:55 a.m. A sharp sound rang and Yenjika was jolted awake from her dream. She was stunned for a few seconds before realizing what time it was. She turned off the alarm on her phone, rubbed her face, and ran to the bathroom with unsteady steps. She splashed her face with cold water and was completely awake. Taking out her tablet, she leaned against the pillow, found the live streaming website and started buffering. After a while, she saw the battlefield on Jiangxin Island, the spectators on the surrounding ships, and Lu Qing in his navy blue martial arts suit, standing opposite Xie and Xiaoya. Ladies and gentlemen, the opening match of this year's master competition is about to begin. Lu Qing from Longhu Club will be facing Xie and Xiaoya from Weiyue Club. They are both third-pin physical invulnerability mighty ones. As the commentator's voice drilled into her ears, Yenjika's lips curled into a smile. On the River Heart Island, shouts of Lu Qing and Lu Qing faintly reverberated around. Pretty popular, Xie and Xiaoya complimented with a smile. She was more than 30 meters away from Lu Qing, but with each other's hearing, they could hear each other clearly if they spoke a little louder. Of course, it would also be recorded clearly by the broadcast. Lu Qing was about to reply when the referee raised his right hand and waved it down. Conversation time starts now. He was a little further away and planned to walk to the edge of the battlefield. At this moment, Xie and Xiaoya spoke with great interest. I heard you can withstand negative 130 degrees for quite a long time. Let's talk about it later. Lu Qing smiled and started to prepare for visualization. Xie and Xiaoya watched in bewilderment until a faint purple fireball formed around her opponent and spun in an oval shape. Is this 9 rotations of 5 flames? Descent of the sun. Xie and Xiaoya made an accurate judgment, but the doubts in her heart grew. Didn't they say that maintaining the 5 flames was very mentally taxing and was a huge burden on the body? Didn't they say that Longhu Club's physical invulnerability experts would only use this move in a fight where they couldn't separate from each other, so that they wouldn't waste their energy if they couldn't hit the enemy after accumulating it? Why did Lu Qing use it during conversation time? Xie and Xiaoya and the audience stared blankly until 5 fireballs of light purple, golden yellow, blazing white, light blue, and crimson circled around Lu Qing like satellites. They rotated in a stable and balanced manner, like gods descending upon the earth. Only then did Xian Xiaoye open her mouth in shock and confusion. "You can do this." Chapter 628. Xian Xiaoye wasn't the only one who found it strange. Even the guest commentator in the live stream couldn't understand. 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the sun. Preparing during the conversation can indeed avoid Xian Xiaoye's interference. But the problem is, how long has it been? He still has to work hard to maintain it for another 2 minutes. The burden of 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the sun isn't small. And once the fight starts, Xian Xiaoye, who is mentally prepared, can totally use a long-range attack strategy. At that time, won't Lu Qing be caught unprepared? Won't he waste so much mental strength and Emperor Yin force? Lu Qing did have a talent in stamina. When others were using 5 or 6 consecutive bursts, he could go beyond 10 consecutive bursts. Could it be that after making the great leap and reaching physical invulnerability, his talent was shifted to mental strength? Otherwise, there's no way to explain his choice. Yanjika's smile deepened as she listened to the commentators' exclamations and analysis from various angles. Her dimples became more prominent, making her look sweet and beautiful. The profundity of my grand starry sky path isn't something mediocre people like you can understand. At the bow of a luxurious cruise ship, Empress Luo was looking at the battlefield on River Heart Island. She laughed, half surprised and half exclaiming. He just reached physical invulnerability and he's already stirring up trouble. This isn't like the Dragon King. He reminds me of the warrior sage. Longzhen and Guijie didn't reply. Instead, they stared at the 5-colored fireballs circling around Lu Qing. They seemed to have their own orbits. Although they seemed to be flying around randomly, there was a hidden pattern to them. It was as if they could maintain their orbits on their own without the guidance of their mental strength. Others might not be able to see this, but they, who had studied the 9 rotations of 5 flames, descent of the sun for many years, keenly sensed the difference. When Longzhen used it, he had to control it forcefully with his mental strength. But Lu Qing was doing it effortlessly. It was as though the 5 flames themselves were escorting him and following him without any additional worry. To use a less accurate analogy, when he used 9 rotations of 5 flames, descent of the sun, it was like flying a kite or a hydrogen balloon. He had to hold on to the string in order to make them flutter in the wind. Lu Qing, on the other hand, was like releasing 5 satellites with himself as the core. Through natural connections, he made them circle in predetermined orbits repeatedly. Not simple. Longzhen sighed to himself. He believed that since Lu Qing dared to do so, he must have a strong backing. This 9 rotations of 5 flames, descent of the sun, could be maintained for a long time with low consumption. In the Longhu Club and Lu Cheng's fan forums, similar exclamations were heard one after another. "Awesome!" Brahmin said with a starry-eyed pose. In her heart, her idol at this moment was like an immortal god descending step by step from the heavens. The traces left behind by the faint purple, golden, and other 5-colored fireballs outlined a robe that did not belong to the mortal world. The sacred, powerful, dignified, and lofty feelings entered her heart. Eternal Nightfall Yen Shaoling was the same. While she was busy taking screenshots, she said, salivating expression, "The screen is blurry. Let me lick it. Look at your love-struck, no, infatuated look. Don't tell anyone that you know me." Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a look of disdain. As a martial arts forum, shouldn't we be discussing whether Lu Qing has developed a new posture, no, a new move or a new Dharma access that reduces the consumption of 9 rotations of 5 flames? Descent of the sun. What's the point of discussing whether he's handsome or not? Although this was indeed cool, who knew how many children would dream of martial arts? Anyway, I don't believe Lu Qing is deliberately acting cool, a plumber eating mushrooms said. As a heavenly son of the era, he must be a little different. Eyes shining expression, Nyachichi said. Amidst the doubts and discussions of the audience, Xan Xiaoya had already formed her ice heart. She restrained her emotions and raised her hand. Referee, he's cheating. Seeing the corner of Lu Cheng's mouth twitch, Xan Xiaoya immediately smiled and said, just kidding. Livening up the atmosphere. As she spoke, her eyes deepened and her aura was released. The temperature within a radius of dozens of meters dropped sharply, as though the crisp autumn weather had turned into a harsh winter. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew. It was neither too strong nor too strong. It only made the dead leaves on the ground spin and dance. However, there was an indescribable coldness in it. It was different from other coldness. It was like a hospital morgue. In the strong cold, there was a hidden chill that made people unconsciously timid, unconsciously fearful, and unconsciously let their imagination run wild. This was a coldness that was mixed with the will of death. This was both a battle of aura and mental oppression. However, at that moment, Xan Xiaoya felt as though Lu Qing was a vast expanse of darkness. It was cold, vast, and empty. All the chilly winds and chilliness blew into it and dissipated on their own. They couldn't even cause a ripple. It was like the end of everything, an eternal death. Xan Xiaoya seemed to have grasped something. But at that moment, the referee shouted from afar, "Begin." The official match of the master competition was thus unveiled. Bam! Xan Xiaoya spun on the spot and bent her back, stirring up a strong wind that seemed to come from the polar regions. The goose feathers in the wind were large and dense, blocking one's vision, interfering with one's hearing, and reducing the range of one's mental senses. Wind and snow were good at disorienting one's tracks. Drones recorded the scene and presented it to the audience through various means. With the help of modern technology, Xan Xiaoya's figure could be vaguely seen in the wind and snow. Sometimes she was in the west, sometimes she was in the east, sometimes she was in the hills, sometimes she was on the side. She was constantly moving at high speed, not giving Lu Qing a chance to approach. With the 5 flames at hand, only an idiot would go head-on with her. Bam! 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 The sound of her movements was drowned out by the strong wind. After changing directions a few times, Xan Xiaoya formed a sword with her fingers and pointed forward. A crystalline, cold light shot towards Lu Qing at supersonic speed. A spirit holy light, a blade at close range and an arrow at long range. Swoosh! 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 Xan Xiaoya didn't move her upper body. With her footwork, she shot out several dreamy, cold lights in the wind and snow, forming an inescapable net that enveloped Lu Qing. In her opinion, even if it couldn't hurt her opponent, it could affect the fireballs around him, causing them to lose their balance and explode. Lu Qing, who had been observing from the same spot, finally moved. He took a step to the side, stirring up a strong wind that avoided most of the ice spirit holy light. Only a few were blown off course. At the same time, above his left shoulder, the crimson fireball deviated from its trajectory and flew out, hitting the cold lights heading straight for him. Boom! The flames exploded, shattering the ice spirit holy light. Transparent shards fell, reflecting the crimson light and blossoming in rainbow colors. It was so beautiful it was like a dream. Following that, the faint purple fireball hovering above Lu Cheng's head whizzed out, piercing through the wind and snow. Following the cold lights, it smashed towards Xan Xiaoya. Xan Xiaoyan knew that in a normal fight, the fire sect's flying flame meteor, golden godly flames, and Lord Monarch's purple flames, all had the ability to create fireballs to bombard the opponent. Her opponent wouldn't be lacking in long-range attacks, but she never expected that he would use the 5 flames he had condensed as cannonballs. Wasn't that too extravagant? Her heart sank and the hairs on her back stood on end. Xan Xiaoya forced herself to straighten her knees, twist her back, and used the force of the wind to swing a dozen meters away. Rumble. Where she had been, goose feathers dissipated, the wind stopped, and the island trembled. An obvious crater appeared on the ground, with balls of flames burning in all directions. The shockwave from the explosion scraped past her body, shedding a layer of ice crystals. This was Emperor Yan Force's meteor derived from Lord Emperor's purple flame. In terms of attack power, it was definitely one of the top 3 moves of its kind. The reason why 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the Sun was the fire sect's trump card was because it applied and deepened the content of the previous moves and the foundation they had learned. It also had a unique explosive technique. Among them, the Crimson Fireball was derived from the original Zhu Rong force, while the hovering and launching technique was derived from the 4th move, Flying Flame Meteor. It was the weakest and didn't have any special features, but it was the fastest to condense and consume the least energy. The Incandescent Fireball was the upgraded version of the Crimson Fireball. It was hotter and more powerful, and at the same time, it had the heaviness of Emperor Yan and the ease of control of fire virtue, but only a little. The Pale Blue Fireball was the mutated version of the Incandescent Fireball. It was hotter, but its explosive power was weaker, and it mainly burned. The Golden Fireball was based on fire virtue force and was condensed through the technique of golden godly flames. Its explosive power was strong, but it wasn't outstanding in terms of temperature and burning power. However, it could be controlled after launch. In other words, once a martial artist mastered it well, he could make it change direction twice or even thrice within a certain range. The Pale Purple Fireball was derived from Emperor Yan Force and Lord Emperor's Purple Flame. Heat and heaviness were its 2 main characteristics. Once launched, it was like a bomb loaded with high explosives. In the hands of a physical invulnerability expert like the Dragon King, it would make the enemy feel like they were attracted by a magnet, making it difficult for them to move in front of the Purple Fireball. The latter 2 were extremely taxing and burdensome to the body and mind. If they were increased in number, the 5 flames would easily lose balance. In the midst of the explosion, Xan Xiaoya saw Lu Qing from the corner of her eye. She saw him launch the golden fireball that was hovering around him. That wasn't the key. The key was that he had effortlessly condensed new crimson and pale purple fireballs. Is there an end to this? Xan Xiaoya took a step forward, lowered her head, and lunged forward to prevent Lu Cheng's golden fire virtue ball from changing direction a second time. However, she didn't know that Lu Cheng, whose foundation was Emperor Yan, had only grasped the relevant techniques and hadn't started learning them yet. Boom! The golden flames spread out and dispersed in all directions, leaving behind another crater. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Xan Xiaoya used mesmerizing steps and responded with ice spirit holy light. Sword chi crisscrossed in the air as cold light flashed. Boom! 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 The crimson, pale blue, blazing white, golden, and pale purple fireballs that were hovering around Lu Qing shot out one after another. They quickly condensed and exploded, clearing up the brutal snowstorm and leaving craters all over the ground. The audience had seen countless long-range battles between physical invulnerability experts, but none had lasted as long as this one. For a physical invulnerability expert, long-range attacks consumed more energy than close-range attacks. The latter was the best way to go, with the former as support. Otherwise, the landlord wouldn't have any extra food. This is like a battle between immortals in novels. No, a sword immortal versus the leader of the Five Fireballs Divine Sect, commented Pig Riding Knight in the Longhu Club forum. I think if Lu Qing were to transform his 5 flames into different colored dragons, I'd probably prostrate myself on the ground and call him a god. That would be cool, snickered Road to the Arena. Can't help it. The 5 Fireballs Divine Sect is descended from the Dragon King, replied Invincible Punch. Boom. 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 Xan Xiaoya was affected by the aftermath of the explosion. Her hair was disheveled and her face was covered in dust. Her Ice Sect secret arts, which were a mix of Death Sect techniques, couldn't seem to find a use for them. This kind of exchange made her feel like she was fighting a tank with 5 turrets with a rifle. The firepower, suppressive power, and coverage were completely incomparable. Even the advantage of quick firing and quick succession was made up for by Lu Cheng's 5 fires, which he had prepared in advance. He switched between them in an orderly manner and used them one after another. This can't go on. This guy is practically a human turret with multiple turrets. Xan Xiaoya turned around and dodged the explosion. While complaining, she changed her strategy. Whoosh! The sound of the wind around her suddenly turned harsh and gloomy. The falling snow froze into ice crystals. Xan Xiaoya's figure suddenly dimmed. She was blurry and indistinct, like an illusion. The phantom split, and with the help of the environment, they appeared in all directions. A dozen or so Xan Xiaoya floated towards Lu Qing like ghosts walking in the cold night. This was an illusion movement technique, ghostly walks on a cold night, which she had created by combining the characteristics of Death Sect and ghosts. It was based on the second move of the Ice Sect, mesmerizing snow steps. After testing, it could effectively fool the enemy heart-freezing move until it was within 2 meters of Lu Qing. At this distance, even if he could detect and distinguish the real from the fake, he wouldn't be able to react in time. Whoosh! At this moment, Lu Qing took a step forward and appeared in front of her in the blink of an eye. All the illusions and disturbances seemed to have no effect in his eyes. His sense of danger was limited to this area. Xan Xiaoya's eyes widened. Lu Qing stretched his back expressionlessly, shook his right arm, and swung it down. The blazing white, golden, light blue, crimson, and faint purple flames behind him circled at high speed and came crashing down in the same direction. 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descend of the sun. At this critical moment, Xan Xiaoya's feet suddenly turned soft and the soil turned into a swamp. Her skin was grayish-white, as though she had turned into a dead person. As though she had been prepared, she had formed an everlasting ice wall to protect herself. In an instant, Xan Xiaoya sank into the ground and the swamp solidified once more. A blazing white light flashed past. The spectators on the cruise ship far away from the island instinctively closed their eyes. They were so agitated that tears flowed out. Boom! The ground shook and a mushroom cloud rose. Violent winds swept away the surrounding leaves and dirt. The exaggerated crater burned with crimson flames that swept outwards. With a crisp bang, the ground behind Lu Qing cracked open. Xan Xiaoya bounced out, formed a sword with her fingers, and pointed at the back of her opponent. The ice wall that covered her body had shattered. Her skin was cracked and flipped, but there wasn't a trace of blood. Instead, there was a dark red trickle at the corner of her mouth that slowly dripped down. Everything that had happened was within Xan Xiaoya's expectations. She knew very well that Lu Qing had the supernatural ability to deflect curses and predict danger before he reached the physical invulnerability stage. She believed that after he made the great leap, he would be even more powerful in this aspect. Therefore, she didn't expect that the hallucination-type ghost walks on a cold night would be able to fool his intuition. She had long secretly prepared the Death Sect's burying technique and formed the eternal ice wall in time to exhaust the enemy's 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the sun. Even so, under the terrifying power of 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the sun, she was severely shaken. Her injuries weren't serious, but there were many residual negative effects. This kind of attack power was truly enough to ascend the heavens and descend to the netherworld. As Xianxiao's thoughts flashed, shadows appeared under her opponent's feet. Like air shackles or wild vines, they entangled, hooked, and pulled Lu Cheng's legs. At the same time, Xianxiao's fingertips, which had long completed her visualization, turned greenish-black from the extreme cold. Lu Cheng hadn't expected his opponent to have the decisiveness and precision to win in such a dangerous situation. As a result, he couldn't react in time and was temporarily restrained. All he could do was take Xianxiao's finger attack head-on. His heart was as cold as before. He didn't panic. As thoughts flashed through his mind, he twisted his waist and leaned to one side. His right arm was covered in a layer of ice crystals as he swung it in the opposite direction. Poof! Xianxiao tapped with her finger and used the force to swing back and change her position. Lu Cheng felt a chill invade his body, assimilating with the ice wall and penetrating his flesh. In an instant, he lost all feeling in his right arm and forearm. It was as though he had been frozen to the point of numbness or necrosis. This shocked him. As long as it didn't affect one's thoughts or the body's ability to withstand extreme cold, the vigorous physical invulnerability qi and blood in one's body would be able to resist and neutralize most of the effects. It required continuous accumulation before it could take effect. Otherwise, it could only form a layer of ice on the outside to restrict movement. But now, in just an instant, one of his arms was frozen stiff. Just as senior sister had said, the fatal chill was even more powerful than he had expected. As Xianxiao shifted her position, Lu Cheng wasn't surprised or hesitant. He retracted his qi and blood and retracted the fatal chill, dispelling the negative effects to a certain extent and preventing it from invading his shoulder. Even so, his right arm, forearm, and palm were still deeply numb and stiff. For a moment, he couldn't move freely. Bam! Lu Cheng's Dan qi erupted and poured into his legs. He forcefully tore off the arms of the ghosts and broke free from their restraints. At this moment, Xianxiao, who was very confident in the fatal chill, moved to his right again. She clenched her fist and threw a punch, surrounded by faint light. She wanted to take advantage of Lu Cheng's paralyzed right arm to gain the upper hand. Then, she would use the fatal chill consecutively to clinch victory. But at this moment, Lu Cheng didn't panic at all. With a shake of his right shoulder, the arm that had been frozen into a stone turned into a weapon and swung out. His movements were smooth and natural, as if he had gone through a lot of practice. Xianxiao would never have guessed that he had trained hard to fight when he lost control of his arms and legs. Compared to that, this was nothing. Bam! With a dull thud, the two figures separated. Under Xianxiao's frosty gaze, which masked her astonishment, Lu Cheng took a step forward. He even gathered his force and drew the fighting formula. His body instantly grew taller. His muscles tightened around his martial arts suit, outlining the contours of his body. His greenish-black skin made him look more like a monster disguised as a human. Boom! He swung his fist down with a loud explosive sound, causing Xianxiao's arm to tremble slightly. She was forced to take a few steps back, and the impact caused her organs to churn even more violently. The residual effects of the descent of the sun from before were all unleashed. Faced with Lu Cheng's pressure, Xianxiao gathered her force concentration and visualized. Her fist was covered in white frost as she threw out an ice spirit. Lu Cheng didn't care. He continued to use the fighting formula and the eruption of his Dan force. He transformed into a giant and punched with his left fist. Bam! Xianxiao's organs churned even more violently. Her ears buzzed. As she retreated, she created several deep craters. Lu Qing didn't care that his left fist and left arm were frozen. He gathered his force concentration again and shifted his stars to the fighting formula again. Bam! 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 After a few consecutive blows, Xan Xiaoya was dizzy. Her arms were trembling and she couldn't exert strength. At this point, Lu Qing, who had reached the limit of his fighting formula, switched to using pure Dan force. After the first punch, a crimson aura formed around him and circled him. Boom! The punch and fireball landed at the same time. Xan Xiaoya was sent flying by the explosion. She caught her breath in mid-air and flipped like a sparrow hawk. Riding the wind, she landed steadily to the side. She was about to use force concentration to subdue the effects when she saw Lu Qing charging at her without giving her a chance to recuperate. Crimson aura formed around him again, followed by a blazing white aura, then a faint blue aura. Again. Xan Xiaoya sucked in a breath of cold air. She examined her body, straightened her back, and swung back. She raised her right hand and shouted, "I surrender." The consequences of being hit by 9 rotations of 5 flames again would be unthinkable. Chapter 629. Hearing Xan Xiaoya admit defeat, the host in the live broadcast room exclaimed before the referee could announce the result. Able to attack from afar, close range, and sustain for a long period of time. Lu Cheng's 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descent of the Sun is truly insane. I think all the physical invulnerability experts watching this match are thinking of ways to counter this move. This is also the specialty of modern martial arts. Once you come up with a new move, new martial arts, or new Dharma access, it will quickly attract the attention of others and be analyzed by others. There's no such thing as a single move dominating the world. It's not like ancient times, where a trump card could be used for many years. Even if an enemy who has not been killed before wanted to spread the news, who knows how many years it would take for them to achieve their goal. Alright, let's go off topic. The referee announces that Lu Qing has won the match. His first battle as a physical invulnerability expert got off to a good start. Moreover, his opponent is Xan Xiaoya, who can be considered one of the best among the third pin fighters, the one who created the lethal chill. He deserves to be called the heavenly son of the era. Back then, Wisdom King, Zhi Hai only appeared in public for the first time half a year after making the Great Leap. He was already familiar with the Great Light Scripture, Womb Realm, and Vajra Realm martial arts. He also encountered several outstanding first pin and second pin fighters consecutively and suffered a few defeats. This made us unable to truly understand the strength of the heavenly son of the era after making the Great Leap. Now, Lu Qing has proven this point. More importantly, I noticed that in the previous battle, other than that one defensive move, he didn't use any of the ice sect's unique skills. The legendary 9 syllables also seem to have only used the word fighting. In other words, he still has many moves and changes that have yet to be revealed. Fellow physical invulnerability experts and the various forces other than Longhu, don't you feel like the wolf is coming? Of course, we don't have to worry about this in the short term. But what about in 2 or 3 years? As the saying goes, the new generation will always surpass the old. Let's look forward to the era of the 4 heavenly sons of the era. You're bragging too much. Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling was unusually objective. Then she added another sentence in the forum, but I like it. Again. Again. Pfft, I like how shameless you are. Nye Chi Chi said with an emoji of patting a dog's head. Bull Demon King said, 5 fireballs is so cool, the best way to show off in front of girls. I'm already drunk, Brahmin replied cheerfully. Because she had become familiar with Yan Zhike in private, she was too embarrassed to call him Lu Qing, so she changed the way she addressed him. It's too late, because there's no Luo Han Kung Fu in slumber. There's no Kung Fu that can be practiced while lying down. You're getting better at self-deprecating. Okamoto's fan couldn't find anything to criticize. Ahem, let's talk about the match just now. I think Senior has a chance to enter the top 32 after the double elimination match. Yan Shaoling changed the topic and sent a cheerful emoji. Yeah, with the strength he showed, as long as his luck isn't too bad, he'll have a high chance of winning if he encounters a first pin one after another. Unparalleled Dragon King agreed. Besides, there are still 16 Inhumans. The chances of getting them in the second round won't be too low. Alright. Come on, veterans. Let's go. Brahmin sent a firecracker emoji. Yan Shaoling was stunned. Brahmin, you've become dirty too. I've had a boyfriend for half a year, unlike you who's been single for thousands of years. Brahmin replied directly. Alright, I'm not a human anymore. Pouting sadly expression, Yan Shaoling replied. I'm a dog. That hurts, bro. Unparalleled Dragon King sent a crying face emoji. Don't stop me. I'm going to die for 5 minutes. He had been single for a long time ever since he returned from studying abroad and stayed at home. Once Unparalleled Dragon King said that, the topic of the forum changed. There were single dogs complaining, bragging, and FFF fans calling for heresy. On the deck of a cruise ship north of River Heart Island, Peng Liyun watched the entire match with his hands in his pockets. He was in a trance as he muttered to himself, he really has something new every time. Maybe it was because of the strong pressure from Lu Qing that he kept moving forward without slacking. Even though he had achieved physical invulnerability, he didn't dare to slack off. As he thought about it, Peng Liyun's eyes became unfocused and his thoughts drifted. He seemed to be thinking deeply about how to break Lu Cheng's version of 9 rotations of 5 flames. Beside him was an ergonomic chair, the kind that looked very elastic and comfortable. On it sat a young man who looked to be in his mid-20s. He was wearing a white robe, had a delicate face, and had a scholarly temperament. His black hair was tied into a Taoist bun. Leaning against the back of the chair, he narrowed his eyes and sized up River Heart Island. He looked like he was about to fall asleep. He was Qian Donglu of the Shangqing sect, who had won the most titles since the start of the professional competition. In July of this year, he had won back the title of warrior sage from Dongbaxian. They really are of the same origin. Qian Donglu chuckled. He picked up a pair of sunglasses and put them on. He didn't seem to be looking forward to the next few matches, so he decided to sunbathe and take an afternoon nap. Just as the physical invulnerability mighty ones were thinking about how to deal with the situation, Lu Qing returned to the cruise ship where the Longhu Club was after enjoying the cheers of the audience. When he reached the edge of River Heart Island, he didn't take a small boat. Instead, he stepped on the water. The waves on the water stopped, and a layer of ice formed. Lu Qing stood steadily. Every step he took was supported by a crystalline foot. He approached the cruise ship in a carefree manner. Then, with a leap, he landed on the deck without a single drop of water on him. This brought even more enthusiastic cheers from the audience. Stepping on the water like it was flat ground was the first expectation many people had for martial arts. There's a reporter waiting to interview you. Ning Zidong pointed at the camera team near the cabin door. She wasn't in a hurry to ask about the 9 rotations of 5 flames. All right. Lu Qing reached out and took the phone from Alman. Just as the screen lit up, he saw a message from Yan Zhike. She sent a snickering expression. I'm impressed. Impressive. 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 You're making our Grand Starry Sky sect strong. Why aren't you sleeping yet? Lu Qing subconsciously wanted to reply like this. However, after he typed, he changed it to a confused expression. I'm flattered. Hee hee. Yenjika replied proudly. Then, she added, now I can sleep in peace. The corner of Lu Cheng's mouth lifted. He quickly replied, hurry up. He locked the phone and passed it to Alman. Then, he walked to the cabin door and accepted the interview. I'm Li Su, a reporter from Satellite TV Sports. The female reporter, who was wearing a white shirt, pencil pants, and high heels, smiled and said, we have more than 3 questions today. I'm a little scared, Lu Qing replied half-jokingly. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Li Su, who had already prepared the outline of the interview, said confidently, first of all, congratulations on winning your first battle as a physical and vulnerability expert. Your performance has convinced everyone and left all those who doubted you speechless. However, we're all curious about one thing. Your 9 rotations of 5 flames seems to consume less energy than normal. How long can it last? There's nothing to hide. Everyone knows that I have 2 opposing supernatural abilities, ice and fire. Since I was a professional 9th pin fighter, I've been constantly searching for a way to unify them. Later, with the help of the balanced rotation and natural phenomena, I found my own way. It's because of this balanced rotation that I can use other methods to maintain the 5 flames. The burden is indeed very small. Lu Qing spoke calmly and gave a simple presentation of his special martial arts. Li Su didn't expect him to answer so clearly. After a long while, she praised sincerely, you're not stingy and you're willing to share the path you created. This is the magnanimity of a grandmaster. I'm still young and full of drive. I'm not afraid that others will catch up with me using this method. Lu Qing chuckled. This is a sign of strong confidence in yourself. Li Su praised again. Then, she asked jokingly, what about when you're old? Lu Cheng's expression was calm. He chuckled softly and said, if there are others who benefit from this, they'll definitely respect me more when they face me. Isn't that good? You're open-minded and magnanimous. Li Su nodded with great interest. Lu Qing, I feel that you're much calmer and more mature than before. People will always grow up slowly. Although in my heart, I've always been the young man who chased after his dreams. Lu Qing laughed at himself. Li Su thought for a while and asked again, what on earth did you experience in the past year? How could you make the great leap so quickly and have such a good mentality? I said at that press conference that the previous injury had a great tempering effect on me. When the sequela was at its worst, I really considered quitting the martial arts circle. I really endured the torment every day, but I still didn't want to give up and leave. During this process, I gradually recognized myself and found the strength that came from my heart. When I finally walked out, everything fell into place. Well, I want to thank my family for their understanding and support. Lu Qing said unhurriedly, without you, I wouldn't have been able to make it this far. Only thank your family. I heard that you have a girlfriend. Li Su smiled mischievously. She was quite touched by Lu Cheng's answer. She seemed to be able to understand the torment, hesitation, and loss of this heavenly son. Lu Qing explained seriously, in my heart, she's my family. Wow, so sweet. Li Su said amusedly, next question, during the interview, washing board of the Axian family posted on Weibo, terrible. I finally understand what it means to be suppressed by fire. What it means to be beaten silly. P.S. Please recommend me. Chapter 630. Like style, like fans. Not only did washing board of the Axian family not attract sympathy, but it also created a joyful atmosphere. Don't cry, stand up. We are all flat-chested. Why is someone stronger than you? Think about it. Apart from Lu Qing, the current Dragon King is probably the only one who can do such a thing. However, the current Dragon King doesn't care about such methods anymore. I've typed so many words just to tell you that you've gone against the trend recently and have a bad character. What does it feel like to be stunned? Go away. You are not my idol anymore. Lu Cheng, who was about to post a Weibo post to commemorate his first physical invulnerability battle, challenge tournament, started reading the comments with great interest. After reading all of them, he had forgotten his previous feelings and could only complain casually. To be honest, a nickname like 5 Fireball Sect Leader or Multi-Turret Holy Object is 10,000 times better than Sky-Shaking Ice Fire Roar. Many Cats was the first to reply. So you want to be called 5 Fireball Sky-Shaking Roar or Multi-Turret Roar? Stop struggling. When it comes to nicknames, there is no worst. Be careful, you will be worse than Roar in the future. Unparalleled Dragon King reminded him based on the bloody history of many senior martial artists. Seeing his fans coming up with weird nicknames for him, Lu Qing had the urge to delete his Weibo post. Out of sight, out of mind, out of mind, out of mind. He muttered silently a few times, opened the app and locked the phone screen. If I continue reading, I will laugh myself. Lu Qing retracted his gaze and turned to River Heart Island to watch the next match. He didn't put in so much effort in every match. He took some time to take an afternoon nap to refresh himself. After all, there would be replays on the internet. After dinner, he didn't go to Juku Stadium to watch the match at night. Instead, he returned to the hotel and chatted with Yen Jika while watching the match on the big screen TV. The previous interview had been made into a program and was played during the break. Returning from the tribulation and rising from the ashes. This is my view of Lu Qing making the great leap. A sword is sharpened by grinding, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. Li Su concluded. Compared to experts who had a smooth sailing life, Lu Qing, who had experienced ups and downs, was more popular among ordinary people. They seemed to have found a resonance with him. The next day, Ping Liyun, Ren Li, and the Wisdom King, Zhi Hai, went to battle one after another. All of them won, and the name of the 4 heavenly prides became even more popular. In the first round of the competition, there was no lack of classic battles where the weak won against the strong. It was not strange for a rank 3 to win against a rank 2. However, in the neutral arena, without the advantage of the environment, it was almost impossible for them to defeat a rank 1. After the first round of battles 2 days ago, the organizing committee drew lots online and did not hold a special banquet. Lu Qing sat cross-legged on the bed and made a 50-cent bet with his little fairy. He felt that he would meet a strong opponent who was much stronger than him in this round. Yen Jika, on the other hand, thought that they would be at the same level, maybe stronger or weaker. The drawing of lots proceeded as planned. Lu Qing saw his senior sister meet the Sword King, Wu Qiao, the head of Shushan study, and saw Ping Liyun meet Wang Xiaoshuang, a disciple of Daxing Temple. Lu Qing had heard of this man's deeds long ago. He had awakened a powerful supernatural ability when he was young. Once he was agitated, he could easily create fires. At first, his parents did not know why there were so many fires in the surroundings. When they understood, they sent him to the famous Daxing Temple to cultivate his mind and Zen to control his supernatural ability. Because of his talent, Wang Xiaoshuang had always been a classic example of someone whose combat strength was greater than his level. His flaming dragon fist was famous in the north and south. When he was only a rank 4, he could hold his own against a physical invulnerability mighty one for a long time. He had made the great leap 2 years ago. Last year, he had mastered the Dharma Guardian Azure Fire of the Womb Storage Sect and many parts of the Great Light Scripture of Buddha. This year's battle results were outstanding. Because it was not enough for the statistics year, he was not promoted. However, no one would think that he was just a ranked 3. Taoist's luck is just a so-so. Lu Qing complained. Then, he heard his name. Longhu Club, Lu Qing. Restraining his thoughts, he watched seriously as the ball was taken out and the paper was unfolded. The deputy director of Jiuqiu City Martial Arts Association flipped the paper and announced, Yanzhou League, Wang Ke. Wang Ke. This is a genuine second pin fighter. Lu Cheng's mind raced as he thought of all kinds of information about the other party. This physical invulnerability expert was a young mighty one personally trained by Kiran Dong Baxian. He was humble and kept a low profile. In the beginning, he did not stand out and remained in the team with hopes of making the great leap. However, he was not one of the most eye-catching ones. Until the age of 27, he suddenly surpassed all of his peers in the Yanzhou League and rose to the top. After that, he received his second pin certification in just 1 year. He had just turned 29. Because of his personality and style, he was usually ignored by the media and treated lightly. It was only when Dong Baxian received the title of Warrior Sage last year that he was pushed to the forefront of the storm. At that time, the new Warrior Sage, who had always been arrogant, said, I don't envy Daxing Temple for having Wisdom King, Shangqing Sect for having Pingliyun, or Kongtong School for having Renli, because our Yanzhou League has Wang Quebec. Among all the young people I have seen, he is the one who is most suited for martial arts. He doesn't have any primitive supernatural ability or outstanding talent, but he has enough shocking talent. He has the ability to turn something rotten into something magical. He has an extraordinary understanding of various martial arts and techniques, and he is good at grasping the key points in complicated situations. You may think that the battles he participates in are often ordinary, but that is because he makes the situation simple and easy to win. Within 5 years, believe me, he will definitely receive the title within 5 years. Some martial artists shine brightly when they are still inexperienced, while some martial artists get better as they age. Such comments caused an uproar among the public. In an instant, there were differing opinions. Many mocked Dong Baxian for always boasting and getting carried away after receiving the title of Warrior Sage and spouting nonsense. However, it was also because of this that many critics with deep martial arts foundations found Wang Ke's battle videos over the years and re-evaluated this young mighty one. In the end, they all gave similar comments. Potential of a master. Lifting heavy weights as though they are light. No matter how ordinary the martial arts in his hands, they can shine with unprecedented brilliance. This is not only because of his own realm. Such praises made Wang Ke famous. If it wasn't for the fact that Lu Qing, Pingliyun, and Renli were too dazzling this year, he might have received even more attention. This opponent isn't simple. Lu Qing nodded his head slightly. His heart was filled with respect. At this moment, Yanzhike sent a message. Hands spread, who asked you not to trust my instincts? I was wrong. Coach Yan's words are straight and hit the nail on the head. Lu Qing revealed a smile and sent a red packet of 50 cents. Yanzhike sent an emoji of touching her hair proudly. Take the red packet back. Let's talk about 50 cents. Tell me, what's your impression of Wang Ke? Lu Qing sent an emoji of wiping cold sweat. Other than that incident, I haven't really watched Wang Ke's matches. Tonight and tomorrow, I'll have to cram for it. As for the matter of collecting videos of his opponents, he didn't have to worry about it. The Longhu Club had its own specialized personnel to do this. While the two of them were chatting, Renli's opponent was confirmed. It was an inhuman who had made it into the main competition, Xingshi Duo of the Guanwai League. At this time last year, he and Renli were at the same level. Now, they were worlds apart. Renli's character is not bad. Could it be that a girl with a bad sense of direction has good luck? Lu Qing complained and Peng Liyun in the group chat. Priest, maybe the one who will treat us in the end will be Renli. You can't beat fate. Maybe she has a halo of good luck. To be honest, sometimes I really suspect that she has supernatural abilities in this area. Being bad with directions is the price. Peng Liyun still couldn't understand why Renli didn't get lost in the war-torn zones and end up in the enemy's lair. However, he had never thought about how he, who was always daydreaming, could make a name for himself in that area. Renli sent an emoji of biting her lips. I'm not happy at all when you say that. I really want to meet a strong opponent. Another round to wait. In the hotel where Yanzhao League was staying, Wang Ke held the remote control and stared at the television screen. After watching the lots, he stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. After pondering for a while, he lit up his phone and gave Dong Baxin a call. Hello, Master Dong. Can you help me imitate Lu Cheng's 9 rotations of 5 flames tomorrow? Wang Ke requested solemnly. Dong Baxin laughed and said, Sure. My opponent for this round isn't strong. At this moment, all the major web portals had published related news. The most eye-catching one was, Potential Master vs Future Grandmaster. Chapter 631. Once the results of the draw were out, Yanzhao League's official Weibo created a topic, #Master vs Grandmaster #come, let's discuss the outcome of this hot battle. As for the rest, other than Little Hu, it's just a win. There's nothing to say. Very quickly, the replies started to pile up. If it was a year later, I might be worried about Quebec. But now, ha ha ha. We can't underestimate Lu Qing. He still has many tricks up his sleeve. For example, he should have a better grasp of the ice sect than the fire sect. After all, he's a disciple of the ice god sect. Upstairs, don't be too humble. 2K isn't an ordinary second pin mighty one. I bet 5 packs of spicy sticks that 2K will definitely win. I don't believe it, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. 2K is on par with everyone. He gets stronger when facing strong opponents and weaker when facing weak opponents. Lu Qing is still lacking. The young mighty ones of our Yanzhao League are definitely not weaker than others. Besides, they have the advantage of accumulation. Bring my stool over and let's wait for 2K to destroy Lu Cheng's 9 rotations of 5 flames. How? How do you think he will do it? Shoot a laser beam from afar and destroy one with one finger. While the Yanzhao League members were discussing heatedly, the atmosphere in Lu Cheng's fan forum was relatively heavy. Unparalleled Dragon King, how strong is this Wang Ke? Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling didn't watch many of Yanzhao League's matches and didn't know much about the low-key Wang Quebec. Unparalleled Dragon King replied quickly, very strong. Let's put it this way. I think he'll get a title within 5 years. He has the ability to simplify and do things as if they were light. Not everyone has this ability. In fact, most physical invulnerability experts don't have it. I'm suddenly a little nervous. I haven't been nervous about a match in a long time, said Brahman in an old-fashioned manner. Sob sob sob, me too. Yan Shaoling chimed in. A plumber eating mushrooms said, what are you afraid of? It's not like you'll be eliminated if you lose. It's a good thing to meet such an opponent in the first few matches of the physical invulnerability stage. I'm going to watch videos of Wang Ke's matches, replied Nye Chi. Oh right, what kind of martial arts does Wang Ke specialize in? I've seen his videos and they're all shining, all the good names are taken by dogs asked. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with an emoji of Nike mouth. Of course it's the Yanzhao League Supreme Art, the Golden Scripture of Dong Huang, also known as the Light Sect. Daxing Temple's Great Light scripture has been secretly modified based on it, mixing in a lot of content. Compared to its earliest form, it's completely different now. The Yanzhao League also has the remnants of the Plague sect, and they have incorporated many of the techniques into their own light sect. Anyway, calm down. Maybe Lu Qing will suffer his first defeat as a physical invulnerability expert. If he wins, it'll be a surprise. It sounds amazing. I'm getting more and more nervous. Let me tell you a real joke. Yan Shaoling changed the topic. What kind of joke is that? Okamoto's fan was very enthusiastic. Yan Shaoling used an emoji that was trying to hold back her laughter and said, "Didn't I dye my hair green before?" Box, no, little Gao laughs at me every day. Yesterday, she even said that she would dye her hair in real linen ash for me to see. When she comes back, she'll have green hair too. Are you retarded? Twitching mouth expression, said Ro to the arena as he wandered over. Is this the rhythm of you forgiving each other? A plumber eating mushrooms, thumping floor laughing. Doesn't little Gao have the strength of a dance stage expert? Is that guy with the dye okay? Asked Unparalleled Dragon King worriedly. He should be fine, replied Yan Shaoling uncertainly. The heavy atmosphere in the forum slowly dissipated, returning to its usual characteristics. The next afternoon, Ning Zitong and Long Zhen, who had drawn good lots, brought their respective assistants out to visit friends. They were having a rather leisurely time. Alman and Guojie's assistant, Wang Yueshi, sat in the open cafe next to the lobby, enjoying afternoon tea. They didn't dare to stray too far from the hotel. At first, I thought that being the personal assistant of a physical invulnerability expert would be very busy. But in the end, I've been idling for a few years. I'm not busy for more than 5 days a month, said Wang Yueshi emotionally as she stirred her coffee with a silver spoon. Alman almost burst out laughing. She smiled and said, "That's what I thought in the past too. Now I've learned how to entertain myself and improve myself." The two assistants looked at each other and smiled. They turned their gazes to the elevator, thinking that their boss must be studying his opponent's video or practicing in the hotel's martial arts hall. After more than a day of pondering, Lu Qing didn't even go to watch Ping Liyun's narrow victory over Wang Xiaoshuang. Lu Qing finally had some understanding of the competition at night and raised the importance he placed on Wang Ke by another level. It's time to go. He put away his laptop, stretched his body, and sent a message to Yan Zhike. She replied, sitting in a dazed expression, "I realize that the match at night isn't as good as in the afternoon. In the afternoon, I can sleep less and wake up in the middle of the night to watch. If it's at night, I have to listen to the lectures of the instructors and do research and discussions with them. There's no chance to slack off. The night in Juku was the morning in Connecticut." Lu Qing chuckled and sent a distressed expression. "It's okay. The result will be a win anyway. Pfft. Do you still want to recover? Keep a low profile. Do you understand? Keep a low profile. Accumulate good karma." Yan Zhike's attention was diverted. "While there's no one around, allow me to be proud for a minute." Lu Qing continued the topic and diluted his little fairy's regret. After 10 minutes, he changed into the navy blue Longhu Club martial arts suit. He collected his emotions, opened the door, and walked out of the room. Alman was already waiting outside. At 8:45 p.m., Yan Zhike arrived at the campus of Connecticut University when the match between him and Wang Ke started at the 50,000-seat stadium in Juku City. It was late autumn and the weather had turned cold. The bleak cold wind swirled the dried leaves on the ground. The girl was wearing a brownish-yellow knee-length coat. She hugged a book in front of her chest and thought of a certain someone on the other side of the ocean. She thought of the battle between the Grand Master and Master. With a calm face, Yenjika stared at the fallen leaves. She sighed softly and walked along the picturesque scenery into the building in front of her. In the 50,000-seat stadium, lights shone down from the half-open dome, illuminating the green lawn like it was daytime. The competition field was 300 by 200, and there was a wide track paved with plastic. Its main purpose was to isolate the audience from the battle between the physical and vulnerability experts. The front of the spectator seats, which could seat at least 50,000 people, was empty. Above them was a layer of bulletproof glass and barbed wire. Every key area was guarded by armed police and security personnel with extraordinary strength. Lu Qing and Wang Ke were in the middle. They were about 30 meters apart from each other under the lights. The lawn around them was full of potholes and tattered, as though it had been plowed by artillery fire. These were the marks left behind by the previous battles. At this moment, Lu Qing shifted his attention to Wang Ke's appearance. His appearance was also the kind that didn't reveal anything. However, his hair was spiked back like an old man, shiny and shiny. He looked very much like a big boss in an old movie. Wang Ke was about the same height as Lu Qing. His body proportions were slightly out of proportion. His head was big, his body was long, and his legs were short. However, at a glance, there was a sense of harmony. He stood there calmly and didn't look nervous at all. He indeed had the demeanor of a master. While Lu Qing was sizing Wang Ke up, Wang Ke was sizing him up too. He felt that Lu Cheng's demeanor was steady and neither servile nor overbearing. It was as though he wouldn't change his expression even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. At this moment, the referee standing between them raised his right hand and said, "Conversation time starts now." After saying this, he immediately walked to the edge of the field. He didn't want to suffer an unexpected calamity when the real battle started. In a battle between physical and vulnerability experts, the referee's role was similar to that of a host. At this moment, the two of them facing each other didn't open their mouths. A scarlet-red fireball appeared around Lu Qing. It was circling diagonally in an elliptical orbit. It was also rotating in an orderly manner. The surface of Wang Ke's body gradually emitted a bright light that illuminated the surroundings. It was dazzling, sacred, and majestic. Those who witnessed it couldn't help but worship him. The golden scripture of Donghuang was said to have originated from the Chu kingdom. It had a long history and was related to the era of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. It was a sacrificial technique from that era of barbarism. However, this was only what they claimed to be. A deity descended from the heavens and shone brightly. Lu Qing actually didn't dare to blaspheme, be an enemy, or attack. He quickly formed the ice heart. While creating the 5 flames, he used his visualization to communicate with the outside world. The sky darkened. The stars in the sky set off the blazing white, golden, and faint purple around Lu Qing. It made Wang Ke look like the sun at noon. It was so glorious in the human world. However, compared to the dark and deep starry sky, it was so insignificant. The night grew darker and the light grew brighter. Lu Qing and Wang Ke's auras were entangled. They were constantly competing to find or create the other party's weakness. Time flew by quickly. Wang Ke suddenly laughed and praised sincerely, "Don't worry, brother Lu. Indeed, he lives up to his reputation." Just as he finished his sentence, Lu Qing was about to reply when the referee at the side shouted, "Begin." With a whoosh, Wang Ke charged towards Lu Qing like a laser beam. It was as though he wanted to take on the 5 flames head-on. The speed of the light sect was faster than the wind sect. In an instant, he was already close to his opponent. Lu Qing didn't hold back at all. Instead of retreating, he stretched his back, clenched his fist, and swung it down fiercely. The red, golden, blue, blazing white, and faint purple flames behind him fell and merged into one. Since Wang Ke wanted to take it head-on, he wouldn't be modest. At this moment, Wang Kei's figure suddenly flashed and disappeared from his original spot. It was as though what happened just now was just an illusion. His figure suddenly appeared at Lu Chang's side. In an instant, he became clear. His forehead was covered in sweat. The burden was definitely not light. It wasn't until this moment that a loud sound exploded from where he was originally standing. It stirred up a violent storm. That step just now was faster than the speed of sound. Golden Book of Donghuang, Xuanpe. This was known as the most difficult secret art of the Light sect. Not every Yanzhao League physical invulnerability expert had mastered it. Previously, only Dong Baxian had mastered it. Now, Wang Kei had to be included. P.S. Begging for monthly votes for the last 3 days. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.